Hey now, we are live on a Wednesday.
QFJ.
Yes, sir. It is July the 6th, 2022, Halenville Live Wednesday. Neil Daly, Tom, Charles Green, John Conklin. How you guys doing? What's up?
Doing well,
Good.
guys. Hope
Doing
you
good,
guys
man.
are rocking and rolling, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, baby.
So, we got a special guest here tonight, which we know about. But there's some awesome news that we're hearing. Wolfgang Van Halen got engaged today. What do
Yes.
you think about that?
Congratulations to Wolfgang, man.
Yeah.
What's his bride's name? Everybody's gonna talk about him. What's her name? Anyone know?
Andrea. Andrea.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Tommy, you're muted.
She's
Time.
she's been his longtime girlfriend now for a little while.
Yeah.
That's
She's
so
like
cool,
a real
man.
sweetheart, like down to earth, kind of grounded person. From what I've seen, very little footage.
Yeah, and I think she's like super intelligent. I think she's like a computer programmer,
Yeah.
something like totally
Yeah.
off the grid from rock and
Yeah.
roll type of stuff, which is probably kind of cool. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Well, the small clip I saw of them in an interview, which I didn't hear her talk, but he was referring to her, and she was like sitting there. This little blurb on Entertainment Tonight or something, and he goes, "Yeah, she keeps me grounded." You know.
That is
Yeah, I
wonderful.
feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like when he was on Howard Stern back in October 2020,
Maybe that's where it was from. Maybe it was from
I
Stern.
think he talked about her back then and said almost that exact same thing. You know, that she was.
It might have been that because he mentioned she was like right off camera, so Stern would make
Yeah.
sense because usually they're on that couch, but you
Yep.
can sit right off camera and watch. So
Right,
Mhm,
right.
mhm.
But
And
she
boy,
seems
by
like
the
a
way,
sweetheart, you know.
that does that picture not remind you of a young Eddie and Valerie? Oh my
Mhm.
God.
Yeah.
I
I had
totally
the
see
same
that.
thought.
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah.
Like that is
Yeah.
that's a great photograph of them too.
Yeah, it is.
I never
Yeah.
thought Wolfie looked as Dutch or Indonesian as he got older, but in that photo he does to me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So,
But yeah, it does look like young
congratulations
Valerie.
to Wolf.
Yep.
One more time.
Very cool.
Applause. Right on.
It happens to the best of us, Wolf.
Yeah.
Happened to me once.
Yeah. And they'll be having little wolfies before you know it.
Yeah, he'll have a wolf pack.
I know. All right. So that's page
Wolfie the
one.
second.
That's page one on the news desk. There's been a lot of Van Halen news this week with some eye-opening Van Halen news from a couple of different places. So we'll try to touch on those, but at the moment we need to see who all is hanging out with us over here. Let's recognize the chat. Mr. Boomster Black, welcome. Nightbot is up and working tonight. Mr. Ben Coombs,
Ben.
nice
Hey,
to
Ben.
see you, Ben. Sandra is in the chat.
What's up, Ben?
And backstage, Christopher Live Sawa is
Christopher,
right
what's up,
there.
brother?
yes.
Holly Lewis.
Hi,
Hello,
Holly.
Holly.
Good to see you.
Right. Ryan Hall is here.
Ryan, what's going on, brother?
Welcome, dude. Keith Campbell.
Keith.
What's up,
Yeah,
Keith?
Baby, right there.
Robert Ranford.
Robert, it's good to see you, Robert.
Let's scroll up. Andy Carson. What's up, man?
Andy, it's
Dan
you,
of
Andy.
New Jersey. Right.
Dan.
All right. Gret Zeppelin.
So,
Guitar Man 45.
Hey, guitar man, it's good to see you, brother. Great stuff.
Ronnie Parfait. Right
Hey,
on.
Ronnie.
Welcome. All right.
Good to
Still
see you, Ronnie.
scrolling.
Welcome, man.
John Conklin's in the chat. Adam Roach. There he is.
Adam.
What's going on, Adam?
Nice to see you, Adam. Welcome, everybody. Yep, we are. I'm gonna bring in our guest here shortly.
Yeah. Hey, everybody in the chat. Hope everybody had a safe 4th of July. Obviously, I'm, in my area, my neck of the woods is recovering from the Chicago situation in Highland Park. So I hope everybody else, everybody and their families are all safe and sound and had a nice holiday.
Yeah.
On a positive note, glad to see they raised $2.5 million already for that kid that was made an orphan.
Yeah, that story is heartbreaking.
Unbelievable.
I saw it as a father, and I thought right away I wouldn't even hesitate. I would dive in front of my kid.
That's what he did. They said by the let's not spin off track. I don't
No,
want to
no,
get really
I
depressing.
got you, but yes,
but
you're 100%
but they
right.
yeah, but from the entry level of his bullets and everything, they said he covered his kid. So
yeah,
same thing happened in Vegas to some people. Covered their children, their wives, their girlfriends. Their children, boy or girl.
What's up, Polly?
Polly,
Hey.
nice to see you, brother.
Dude. All right, so yeah, dudes, we got a really, really, really awesome guest for tonight. We we all know this guy's videos, his YouTube videos on the history of the Stripes. There is a series of them. He's a huge Van Halen guy. Why we haven't had him on sooner, I don't know.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, man, I wish we had him on months ago.
I know.
We've had shows here where he's come to mind. He should have been here.
So, absolutely.
We're
gonna have to redo those.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's funny because this guy is so good. He goes back and redoes his own videos.
Yeah.
He'll go back and re-edit a video that's 5 years old and insert new material and new voiceover. That's how good he is.
But he knows Van Halen. He knows the history of the Frankenstein. He knows the history of the Stripes. We're going to get into all that. We're going to take it to a next level.
He's passionate.
Trust me when I tell you. So let's bring him in. Johnny B Guitars right there. John Burgess. Right on.
What's up, man?
Welcome, bro. Welcome to Halenville.
Johnny, how you doing, dude?
I'm doing great. Awesome. Thanks for having me on here. This is pretty cool. My first live thing I've ever done. So.
Really?
Nice.
Really?
Wow. Nice.
I'm flattered, man.
Absolutely.
Editing. No editing.
No editing. Nope, that's
we can fix it in post.
Nice.
No, we can't.
There's about 7-second delay. That's where you can that 7 seconds.
Just in case he exposes a boob.
The dump button, yeah.
Yeah, dude. Welcome, Johnny. We all know all your videos. People watching do too. We don't see a lot of you on live streams is the thing. So this is a treat for us.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it is.
For sure.
So
thanks, man. It's cool. And like I was saying to you before, I hope that I've been planning to do this kind of thing. So, it's in the future. A lot of things are in the future. I have a lot of plans.
It's really funny too, John. I've ever since I started painting my own guitars, you were the source material that I went to. Your videos, you're like the Bible, the encyclopedia of it. But I didn't realize how big you had blown up and how much of the expert you were until we had the book writers come on our show, and these guys were doing. But Chris and Brad. When they came on and they referenced you and talking to you and going to you for material about their book, at that point I was like, man, we got something really special with this guy, Johnny B.
Well, I'll tell you, that freaked me out. I've known of Chris. I knew him back like 8 years ago when this guitar got in Guitar World. But that was just talking about that guitar briefly through emails. And then, 8 years later, I get this email from him. Hey, I'm doing this article in Guitar World. I'd like to talk to you about your videos. Okay. And, we spent a lot of time going back and forth. Chris and I nerded out on the guitar so much. I mean, we were like weeks just sitting, oh, did you hear about this? And I forgot that. Did you see this photo?
Right.
So we had a lot of fun. And the crazy part was, like, I'm talking to Chris and I'm talking to Chip Kinman because we're doing the whole thing all at the same time about Chip Kinman. Well, I'll talk about him from the Dills. He's a big part of the whole strike thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's like I said to my wife, who is this guy? Like, but yeah, what a cool thing to be able to. And of course the Phil X. We're doing the Phil X guitar at the same time, right? Yep. It's all Frankenstein stuff. Just seems to be surrounding me, and I don't know what happened.
Oh, you nailed that Phil X. Man, the SG, you nailed that. That was phenomenal.
Well, with my good buddy Scott Bodden of Fugly.
Scott Bodden.
Yeah. He brought it to me because he needed the routes. And I was like, yeah, sure, I can do the routes. He's like, no, seriously, can you do the It's like, yeah, don't worry, I'll do it.
Yeah, Scott, what is Scott's guitar? Fugly guitar? Is that him?
Yeah, Fugly Hot Rod Shop Guitars.
Yeah.
And he does a lot of like SGs, like Relics, the guitars. Like, you look at these things and they look like they've been out beside a barn for 50 years.
Right.
New, but he has a really good technique. I don't know how, he does it, but and we've known each other since grade 6. That's the crazy part.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
He's the one that brought
so
Van
cool.
Halen 1 to my house in the summer of 19.
No way, really.
Oh my God, that is.
Because you never heard Eruption? I'm like, no, what's this? He puts it on, and from that moment on, my life changed. Like,
Yeah.
Scott has a lot of videos on Facebook and stuff, and I mean, he sits there and he'll play, with the guitar track removed, and he'll sit and do like Amsterdam from start to finish, or he'll do something like with the trans trem. He's got like a PV with the trans trem on it, and he'll be
Scott.
Yeah, that's not Borden. Is that not Borden that has that?
Scott's a drummer. That's the ironic thing. He makes guitars, but he's a drummer.
I thought that was Scott Borden. That's another Scott. Sorry, guys.
Well, it's like Leo Fender didn't play guitar,
right?
Or at least not at the beginning. I'm sure he learned a little, but.
Wow.
No, Johnny, I think that's really cool though, because we've all had these in our sphere. Obviously, it's talking about when you first heard Van Halen is kind of like asking somebody if where were you when Kennedy was shot, or during the moon landing and stuff. That's a moment that I think it's so cool that guy still is still a part of your life.
Oh, absolutely. We call each other brothers. I mean, it's that kind of.
That's awesome.
Him and his brother Sean. It's we did so much together as kids, and our interests are so similar. We've been in bands together. You get to a certain age where there's only a certain amount of people that you can talk to, and they understand what you're saying. We say things like those prank phone calls. We'll still reference things out of those calls.
Hey, Andrew, nice to see you, dude.
So it's kind of weird to have that relationship. Not everybody does. When I tell people I'm still friends with people from high school, from even before that, grade 6, it's rare.
Yeah, my oldest friend is from 4 years old, and it's a weird thing because we met the first day of preschool when we were 4 years old, and we've been best friends ever since, and we won't see each other sometimes now he lives closer, but for a while we wouldn't see each other for 3 or 4 years, and it was just like picking up the conversation, and his family really is like a second family. I call his, mother and father like mom and dad, and like his brothers, we're all super tight,
Yeah.
Very cool thing to have though,
Yeah, but rare.
Oh, it's very rare, yeah.
Yeah.
So Johnny, we talked a few days ago, you and I did, and so the history of Eddie Stripes, they go they go deep. They go way back. They go.
Well, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we can look back, but he didn't stripe anything until the summer of '77 is when we first see stripes
Mhm.
on the guitar. But we can look back to what the influences were, and that's when things get really interesting, because I think there's like three main people that helped influence that first, the Frankenstein guitar, the paint job. And if you take one of those people out, any one of those people, it might not have happened. So it, it's David Lee Roth, Chip Kinman, and Tim Hart, the motorcycle rider. And I think you can't tell me that Tim Hart wasn't a part of it when you look at his helmet.
You got a shot of that?
Yeah, I'll get to that. And I really believe that what he was doing, like all the way through until he went to Kramer, was trying to get back to that Tim Hart helmet. Where's that?
That's
Really?
it. Hey, while you're looking that up, Johnny, do you put any stock in the fact that maybe Eddie was also influenced by the Danish art movement of the time that was black
Yes.
and white stripes? Yeah,
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah, we can talk about that as well.
Yeah, cool.
But there's try to get the glare off.
Yeah, I got it.
Wow.
Wow.
1976.
That's so cool.
Tim Hart retired in '76.
Man.
Eddie didn't strike the guitar until '77.
That's
Yep.
outstanding.
Yeah.
That's
year.
amazing.
And it goes on from there, because if you think about, show you this shot. We've all seen that.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Yep,
Now
know that one.
it's a Yamaha bike, right?
Yep.
Tim Hart rode for Yamaha. If you
Wow.
look at Eddie's helmet, it's a red helmet. Tim Hart, even though I showed you a black and white photo, he was known for having the red helmet. I got a color shot. Here's
Hey,
a cool
Taylor.
one. This is actually from my video that I had. You can see the red helmet and then
Yep.
the
Yep.
shark, right?
Oh wow.
Cool.
And I'll show you another version where I just highlight it. There's like a little hashtag, and if you look at that hashtag,
Oh
it's
my God,
identical.
Wow. That's
Wow.
that is amazing.
That's crazy.
Now you could say, okay, it's coincidence, right? You take a roll of masking tape and wrap it around anything, you're probably going to end up with that shape. But the thing is, Tim Hart rode in southern California, right in Eddie's backyard.
Wow.
And I can't imagine that Eddie would not have motocross magazines.
Right.
For sure he had them.
sure he
And
did.
Yeah.
Sure he did.
Back in the 70s, you didn't have the internet. If you were interested in something, you bought magazines and stacks of them, right?
Yep.
That's
I've
absolutely
got all
right.
my guitar magazines I've ever bought in my life, right? And so I'm pretty certain that Eddie saw photos of Tim Hart's helmet, but I don't think that when he saw those photos that he thought one day I'm going to paint a guitar like that. There
Right.
had to be a bridge in there somewhere, and
Yeah.
that's where Chip Kinman, I think, comes along. When they went into that Whiskey A Go-Go and saw him play,
And saw them play. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
think that's
probably
when-
sparked that old memory too.
and
Yeah.
thought back, and
Sure. Yeah, like look what I can do with the stripes of that helmet. Now I've got a template.
Yeah, and if you look at the stripes on the helmet,
Cool.
they're wrapped around the helmet, right? Like it's not like if you look at Chip Kinman's guitar, there's sections of tape that he put on one piece at a time. Just get that in there. You can see that it's not wrapped around.
Yeah, right.
It's, and I interviewed Chip, and we had a great conversation, and he even remembers doing that in his parents' living room, and he's like, yeah, I took a piece, put it on, that looked good, and then I put another one on. So it's Eddie, I think, got the idea from Chip, but then thought back to Tim Hart and went, I kind of like how he did it, where you just wrap the tape around. And the Frankenstein has only like really 3 pieces that continually go around. It's not individual pieces. So I think there was a combination of those two people, and then David Lee Roth, I think. And I think we've all heard the video that he put out a little while ago, and interviews where he said, you know, it's his idea. But if you read between the lines and kind of get, you know, ignore the part where David Lee Roth's angry that he didn't get credit for a lot of stuff, I think the only thing that he really did for Eddie was continually tell him, like, okay, black and white guitars are cool, but you got to stop painting them black and white. Why don't you do something a little bit different? I think that's really what he was saying to Eddie. And walking in and seeing Chip's guitar, like, hey, that's simple, right? I don't think Eddie was an artist as far as sitting down with a paintbrush. And, you know, I don't think he was trying to find something complicated. And that was easy to do, and he could do it. Anybody can grab this is like what we all get suckered into. Anybody can grab a roll of tape and a can of spray paint. How easy is that, right? Mm-hmm. Until we do it and then realize how difficult it is to reproduce what Eddie did.
Yeah. Well said.
The trap.
Yeah. I think David Lee Roth was a little bit misinterpreted, and
I do too, John.
Yeah, it's come to light this week, you know, and we'll talk about it later, but it was mentioned in something else that was out there all over the place this week. And it was even said in there that Dave was he wasn't really taking credit for it. He was just misinterpreted, you know, about his influence on Ed, as this was all thrown together in this pot, as you're saying, Johnny, you know what I mean? And mixed together and you know, to what it finally came out as.
Well, I think David Lee Roth was a huge influence on that band, and created a lot of that image, the look, everything that
visually.
And I think Alex and Eddie never really gave him enough credit. I think it shows now. You know, he's kind of bitter about it. But, right. You know, I try not to focus too much on that stuff. But there are some things in that video that he talked about, like saying that the plain white guitar, you know, kind of went out with Jimi Hendrix. Mm-hmm. And that's all Eddie painted back then was, you know, all his guitars were either black or white.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. I wondered why for a long time. And then I had somebody get in touch with me, Jeff Paris, and he worked for a stagehand union. And he said, yeah, I set up stage for a whole bunch of bands and Van Halen, you know, them as well. And because he was a big Van Halen fan, he pushed his way, you know, to the front of the line to get, you know, into where he could meet Eddie and things like that. But he told me that Eddie said the reason why the Frankenstein was painted black and white is because he used leftover curb paint from when him and Alex went out doing addresses on the curbs, right? And when he said that, I was like, of course, that makes so much sense, black and white. You know, immigrants, Dutch parents, you don't go and buy new stuff, right? They probably bought a case of paint if that's what they were doing. And it's like, no. You want to paint a guitar, you use the paint you got in the garage.
Yeah, sure.
And the reason I think with the Shark guitar is, you know, that it's a different color. It's a bright, you know, red, you know. They got an advance from Warner Brothers. That was after they recorded the album. Now he had like probably more money than he'd ever think he'd see in his life. Mm-hmm. He went to the store and bought the Schwinn bicycle paint, which he probably had his eye on for a long time, thinking, man, I wish I could paint a guitar with this stuff.
Interesting.
And, you know, then he picked up the paint.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
I think he bought the red paint that he painted the Frankie. I think he bought it at the same time that he bought the paint for the Shark guitar. It kind of makes sense if you really look at it, because 78, he was really excited. They just recorded the album, ready to take on the world, ready to knock Sabbath off the stage. Mm-hmm. And, you know, full of anticipation, right? And lots of energy to go and change the Shark and make it look as cool as it does. But 79 was a completely different story. They were $1.5 million in debt. And then going into that tour, he was not ready. The Frankie wasn't even finished painted until they were ready to hit the road. You don't see the Frankie until a couple of days after. And, you know, we know what it looked like in 79. It didn't even have a pick guard. It's taped together.
Right.
But, you know, that's not planning. And even the photos for the rehearsal, all his guitars were different necks. He had the white pickguard on the Frankie. It wasn't even painted. It was the black and white. He took all the pinstripes off.
Mhm.
So he was always changing. I mean, rehearsal is when you should be done, like ready to go, and then pack the stuff in a trailer, and now you wait to hit the road. He was still working on his guitars. I mean, it must have drove people crazy.
I had heard that somebody said they visited the parents' house, you know, that it's still in Pasadena, and they went up by the garage and they actually peeked in the back, and that there's spray paint on the walls of the garage, which is probably maybe from him. That would be the spot he probably would have painted in, right?
I've got a photo of that.
Oh, you do? Good.
Yeah, I use it in my videos. I don't think anybody realized. Like, if you go back to how Eddie Van Halen painted the Frankenstein, the video that I did, I used that as a backdrop for the little cartoon that I made of Eddie painting the guitar. That's that photo. And
wow.
I don't know if I covered it up, but I kind of put like Photoshop posters on the wall. Like there's like one of Eric Clapton and stuff just to have a little fun. I needed something for a backdrop, so I decided to use that. But sure enough, there's red and black paint on the wall. So,
Johnny, speaking of your video, I think one of my favorite things you did was when you tracked down based on the weather reports of when it rained and when they would have had a break and what day he would have been in his backyard painting. Like that was, I was mesmerized as you walked through that.
Well,
it was in March, wasn't it? March or something?
Yeah. Everybody says it's the last week because I think that's what Van Halen News Desk says. But they were on the road the last week. Mm-hmm. They started March 25th, so it was before that, a couple of days before that. So the paint was barely even dry when they were heading out on the road. So I don't even think he had time to put the guitar together properly anyway.
Well, it makes sense because right on the Frankie, there's still a piece of tape, right, where it was never pulled off.
Yeah,
it all fits right into what you're saying. It was a rush. Everything was just probably really rushed, right?
Yeah. Well, and using gaffer tape. That's why I think he didn't buy the paint in '79 because the Schwinn bicycle paint is actually really nice paint. It's a 3-step process. You go base white, and then a pearl coat, and then the candy apple red over top. A lot of people don't understand. That the red is actually a translucent red. It's not like the Schwinn or the Duplicolor that most people use. That's very opaque. That's why you can't reproduce it with it. It's impossible. But why would he buy that kind of paint if he was just in a rush job and he was angry, grabbed gaffer tape? Like, it didn't make sense. And I thought, well, it does make sense if he bought the paint in '77 when he did the Shark. And he did, he might have gone in and bought several colors. Not knowing what he was going to use, just he had a ton of money and like let's buy all these and go home and figure it out. And so in '79 he might have had that can sitting on the shelf, and he was angry about people ripping them off and decided, okay, I'm going to make a change here. Let me grab this red, and let me just point out that the red on the Frankie is a lot more like the Tim Hart helmet than the Shark, right? Like it's going in that direction. And I really think that what he was trying to do, I got another photo here that I made up. I think he was really trying to go for a red and white striped guitar. I think I did a little photoshopping. Oh, it doesn't really show up. Did a little Photoshop there. But I think that's, it's the same pattern as the Frankie is now, but minus the black stripes. I think that's really what he wanted and ran out of time. Because that, if you think the 5150 is more like the Tim Hart helmet, and with Tim Hart used to put black electrical tape on it as well. And the way the colors are, the Frankenstein's black, white, and then red, and the Frankie is kind of the opposite. It's white, red, and then the black are like afterthoughts. Yeah, they're not even properly done. The 5150 was panned by George Felice, and he said he put manila envelopes on the body. He wasn't going to tape up the whole guitar just for a couple of stripes, and then he just sprayed over top. So, you wonder how much input did Eddie have in the Kramer factory as far as picking out colors, because they would have had catalogs. They would have said, Eddie, what color do you want this? Here's a catalog, and he would have like 20 different reds to choose from. I'll pick the orangey red, right? Just like the Tim Hart helmet. And you think of the 5150 stickers. Was he thinking back to the electrical tape on the side
Wow,
of the helmet?
that's interesting too. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, we've heard from various interviews, people have pieced together, either George Felice or Paul Unkert talk about, one of the things, like Eddie would send back a guitar that had too much black on it. So it was, the Kramer guitars were predominantly red and white. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know what I find weird?
If you think about the 5150, how much evolution of the stripes happened after that? Almost none. It pretty much ended. You had the stealth guitar, which was probably somebody else's idea. But, like the Wolfgang he had on 2.5 Men was basically a reproduction of the Frankie.
Right.
It wasn't anything new. There was no new designs. Like, that was pretty much set.
Mm-hmm.
That's
so
true.
I wonder if you finally got the Tim Hart helmet, and I'm happy now.
That's awesome.
Hey Johnny, so when the Frankie was at the Met, what was the biggest surprise for you? I'm sure you went and saw it, right?
I didn't, because where I live, it's like halfway across the country.
Right,
and
gotcha.
It was supposed to. It did go to Cleveland, but I assumed, and everybody that I knew around here assumed, that the Frankie was going to go there as well. And then it got yanked out, and I think it was the 2015 tour gear that he had. I saw that live, so
Right.
I want to see the Frankie, but I look at those photos.
And, so even the photos, did anything strike you as that you didn't? Did you pick up anything from those photos that you saw?
A ton of stuff, but I think the most surprising was seeing how much he sanded it with, and I did some samples where I just painted blocks of wood and used different grits, and it had to be somewhere between 80 and 60 grit, which is like dragging your guitar down the sidewalk.
That's coarse.
Wow.
So it makes you think, who the hell would do this and why?
Right.
And the only logical reason is that he was trying to remove the finish, or at least flatten it out. And if you look all across the body, it's all in different directions and patterns. There's a lot of chipping on the bottom.
Yeah, they cross.
He went in circles. It's pretty obvious to see with these photos now. So it tells a story. And being that he was upset and angry, I think it really shows in those sanding marks that was not a happy guy. And even the paint job, the red paint, if you really look at it that way, that's not a happy person that did that. Compared to the, you look at the Shark guitar or the Star guitar, which is the next, the one he striped after the Frankie in '79. It's well thought out. He spent a lot of time doing it. There's no I'm going to just do this here and there, So, you can really tell that he was angry in '79. And, I think it's a big surprise to him, or it was a big surprise that people ended up liking this thing that he made, and kind of laughing like, I was angry when he did that. Why would you like this so much?
I got the feeling that in like more recent years before he passed away, that he actually liked the white and black better than the red, than with the red. Did you get that feeling? I don't know.
I think so. Well, when you look at the original Frankie, it's beautiful. Like, he put effort into it. He even made the pick guard, even though it was, he made it like, he didn't make it when he painted it. It was already, for some reason he made that pick guard when it was still a bare body. So you don't know if he was planning something or he just made it to suit the guitar at the time. But yeah, I mean, when you look at it, he put the care in with the pinstripes to put them on, reasonably nice, kind of artistic.
Yeah, right.
It's very, I think what impresses me is that, being that it's one piece of tape for the main body, it's really centered out nice. It's not botched up into one corner. I'm wondering how many times he did it before he kind of went, oh yeah, this looks a little better. Like, you can tell he put a lot of effort into it, and he was really proud of it, I think.
I think that's a great point that you make about the anger, very hastily done and very angry. That makes total sense, especially if you you saw the
Welcome,
pictures or you
Jesse's
were at the Met.
Guitars.
You could see it. It's 100% what you said. It was just like you look at this thing. And it was just like it was just like the emotion in this was just it was just like you said, different
sand the crap out of it.
Yeah, different patterns, sanding patterns, and virtually it seemed like every part of that finish on the guitar, if you looked, there were even microscopic sanding marks on spots where you didn't think it was hit. It seemed like it was hit everywhere with that,
and you can see it through the red paint, like even the red paint doesn't cover it up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing that struck me about. I mean, I sat there for like a couple hours looking at the stupid thing, but it even the color red, which is funny because I don't think in a lot of photographs, I think it looks a little darker. It's really red in real life. It's like a candy apple. My wife was like, "Oh my gosh, the guitar is like it looks so much darker in the photos that I've seen of it, but under the lights there, it looks almost like a candy apple red."
I spent a lot of time reproducing the Schwinn paint, like actually making the paint. Figuring out how you make it, buying the stuff, mixing it. And when I first mixed it up, I realized, I get it now. Because, it's not opaque where the light reflects off the surface of the paint. It goes through the red, hits the white that's underneath, and bounces back out. That's why when you see a hot rod painted candy apple red and they put lots of clear coat on it, it looks like you could stick your hand in it and pull it out. It's three-dimensional. And, the Frankie isn't quite that far because there's no metallic under it. It's just a red coat, but it tricks your eye every time you look at it. It's fooling you. And Eddie wasn't trying to do that. It's just he bought paint that he thought was cool.
Do you think because it's not a gold or a silver metallic underneath it, do you think that's why? Do you think it's absorbing, depending how the light hits it, it's absorbing more of that color than... I mean, the actual physics of it, depending, if it's in, partial light or whatever.
It depends on the light, too. And one thing that I did, I was painting all these color samples just on blocks of wood, and they sit in my shop, and I'm like, this is costing me some money. Why don't I paint something that I use every day? So I painted my travel mug, right?
That's awesome, yeah.
So I use it every day. It gets washed as used. But I noticed that if I go out in the sunlight, it was bright red. If I go in where it's just, a little darker, it looks dark red. And it changed color. Everything, And if you think back to all the photos ever taken of the Frankie, sometimes it looks like a dark red. Sometimes it looks like it's just popping out red. It varies in color. And black and white photos are really crazy. They really screw people up. Because if there's a red light on the Frankie when you take a black and white photo, the red disappears. It looks like it's just a black and white guitar.
Right.
And you see people online all the time saying, "What is this guitar?
Yeah, which guitar was this one?"
Yeah. It
Well,
looks like
I think it's crazy too, the way, like, Johnny, that you go through. It's kind of like the way you would build, like, maybe a little bit of delay, a little bit of reverb, but like just in the background. And then you have a light overdrive, a medium overdrive, then you might have a boost. Whereas if you just have a high gain amp, it's a different thing. You don't have the same, order of harmonics and that real kind of touch sensitive effect. I think it's the same way with the paint. My son, who you met before, Johnny, off air, he's really into art. He's looking into, he wants to go to an art school for people on the spectrum.
cool.
But when he draws, like, he'll draw even just like an elephant, but he uses like 6 or 7 different like oil colors mixed to shade the different areas. He doesn't talk a lot, but he basically was communicating to me that he does it because in a photo you have to simulate what light does with shadows. So he's like, that has to be darker there. And I'm like, how do you know this? And he's like, I just know.
Got it. Yeah. I'm an artist, and I've done a lot of painting in my life, and color matching is important. And when you're really into it, you do see color in a totally different light. And I can look at something outside, it may be nothing, but I can sit and look at wow, look at these colors.
The way the sun hits the grass, if it's a little too high, it needs to be cut because the grass folds over at an angle when it gets too high. So that's a different. And I'm colorblind, so it makes it even more vivid for me because,
Sometimes it's really cool to see colors that you don't think really would belong there. But if you look really closely, you'll see the individual colors like, wow, okay, that's what makes everything pop.
Oh
But
yeah.
you're right. The red on the Frankie, it's that kind of thing where if you're used to looking at regular paint that you'd paint your mailbox with or whatever, and because we see it in photographs too, it doesn't convey the same thing in a photograph.
Yeah.
Johnny, is the current like Schwinn paint, is it the same exact formula and everything as it was then? Is it
They even make Schwinn paint now.
Oh, you
yeah,
mix
like
your
the
you
stuff
mix
now,
your own.
the 3-part process. Is it all the same type of? Is it exactly like it would have been back then?
Oh yeah. Even now, like if you can buy cars, General Motors or whatever that candy apple red, and they have to go through the same thing. You can't spray it all out in one. It has to be a layer. A friend of mine is an auto body guy, and I was talking to him about it. He goes, "Oh man, I hate those. Yeah, it's 3 colors."
I think they sell it now though at AutoZone, where it comes in like 4 cans, all like wrapped up in a pack, because you need to do all the steps.
So that would have been expensive. That would have been expensive back in 1970 for a kid at the time who was probably pretty broke, right?
Yeah, I looked up in a catalog. I think they're like $1.79 or $2.79. Like today that's pretty cheap, but I don't know what a regular can of spray paint cost back then. But but even just the process, it seems weird that if he's just trying to throw people off and he's pissed off and he's going to use gaffer tape, why would he care so much about using something that and he didn't even really do it properly. The white that he sprayed underneath, it's very hit and miss. Like it's not consistent. In a lot of spots, he didn't do it thick enough because you can see the black shining through.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you something about candy apple red. If you take just pure, like the proper candy apple red, and you spray it on black, it'll disappear. You won't see it. You need a base coat underneath. So when you're looking at the Frankie and you see the little bit of black stripe underneath, that's the white. It's the black shining through the white. The red is not concealing anything at all. It's like, when you look at a beer bottle, you can see straight through it. It's the exact same kind of, or a stained glass window. It's the same thing. But it's very deceiving if you're not, I mean, it took me until I actually made some samples and I was like, something might click. I'm like, oh, get it.
The red stripe that hits the black just absorbs all the light. It's crazy.
Wow. Tom, you and I have even talked about that before, about getting the ghost stripes is just, it's near impossible to get it right.
Those are the parts of your videos, Johnny, that blow my mind. Like when you were showing how you were doing that, I'm like, how many hours did it take just doing those? The one video you had where you had so many different samples. And I'm like, wow, the patience. Because you have to do them with the same batch of paint. Otherwise, you don't know if you have 5% difference between different batches. It's like, so all those little nuances seem so difficult to me, but I'm glad that you have the patience to do it.
Well, it's not, I don't do it every single day. Like what I'll do is when I first started out, I started at a certain point and I'm like, okay, let's see if I can, because it was really important for me to be able to reproduce what they call the fogging, which is not the right term at all. But I wanted to reproduce that. And I thought, this is spray paint we're talking about. I've spent my life spray painting things. I'm sure I could probably figure this out if I really try. So that was really important to me. But so I started at a certain point and tried to reproduce it. And then I go, okay, that didn't work. What do I need to change to get it a little closer? And so I would next time make a little change. And, after a couple of years, you're like, oh, I got it now. But it felt really weird to think that I've spent years at it. But then I read about the guy that actually invented candy apple red. It took him 10 years to perfect it. So I don't feel so bad, It took this long for me to try to figure it out.
For the people in the chat that maybe not as familiar with the stuff that we're talking about, because we're total nerds here, the fogging that he's referencing are like the pinkish areas in the back where there's spots, pink or purple.
Yeah.
There's spots where the colors kind of bleed. And most people that have built one or painted one wonder how the hell that happens. So go to Johnny's videos and watch, because he covers that specifically better than anybody I've ever seen.
That was awesome. That whole thing on, with the pinks and the purples. That.
Well, what tricks people is, the red that's over a black stripe. If it wears thin, it should go dark red.
Right.
Typically,
in
right?
theory,
but it doesn't. Like you say, it turns purple and pink. So it defies logic of what we're used to paint doing. So that's when people came up with all these other oddball things, that this mysterious thing happened. And so I was like, no, there's no mystery going on here. There's logic to it. Let's just figure it out. And I knew for years that he painted it white underneath, because if you look on the edge of the stripes, you can see the white line. You know, it's there. And sometimes you think that it's just misprinted, like when you're looking at a magazine, like back 30 years ago, all we had were magazines. But I would look at each magazine and it would be consistent no matter what photo I was looking at. So I knew, like, oh, okay, he painted it white, but I had no idea why. I just thought it was to make the red pop.
Sure.
I didn't know 30 years ago it was candy apple red.
That's awesome.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Nice. Yeah, it's incredible.
Freaking awesome.
I think we're getting away from the stripes, though. We're talking all about
It's okay, man. It's all good. You know, it's all good.
We'll talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about. Okay, let's go back to stripes then. Yeah, what else can you tell us?
I'm curious, just
it's
real
one
quick.
And the same.
Can you give us just a basic, brief background of where your background lies, as far as you were talking about, you know, art and that kind of stuff? Because your eye to see this stuff, and you're really seeing things in 3D with the multiple layers. You know, it's like painting in 3D or something almost.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm lucky because I have. I mean, ever since I was a kid, 4 years old, I remember sitting there mixing paint with glue. Like I would just mix stuff up, like little experiments, you know. And I've always been fascinated with paint. When I was, you know, a kid in the 70s, I was fascinated by vans that had murals. You know, you'd see them in the grocery store, and my mom would go in to do the groceries. I'm going to stay here and look at this van. And, you know, I would just be mesmerized by anything that had paint on it and how how somebody did that. And I spent my life with paint and working with spray paint, and not professionally, but enough that I think I have a little bit of an edge, right?
Sure.
And you know, I've been building guitars since the 80s. So you know, when it comes to guitar construction, I have a pretty good knowledge. And then I've worked in the wood industry for 30 years. So you know, when it came to the knot hole, right? It's in a weird place that never really showed up in a lot of photos. And we always heard about this mystery knot. We never really thought about where it was. And I spent a lot of time looking at photos, you know, 30 years ago and expecting to see like a round knot like you'd see in your fence post or something. And figured it was just buried under the paint somewhere. But it was when I was doing, you know, starting my Frankenstein project that I started to do a lot of research and started to notice that there was something really weird going on in that bottom horn. And I started looking at every photo that I could. And then finally, it was the photo that's in Guitar Aficionado where Eddie's holding the Frankie over his shoulder. And you can see right in. It's blurry, but it's there. And you can see a very clear image of the knot. And because I work with wood all the time, I see knots and imperfections. I was like, oh, hey, that's a knot. All right. I was like, oh, wait, shit, that's the knot.
That's the knot.
That's so cool.
That's the knot, yeah. And, you know, so it's fun for me to pick stuff out like that, because I don't think, you know, like I say, I'm lucky that I have sort of a couple of different things that I can use to figure some of this stuff out.
Now, with your knowledge of wood and that knot in particular, once you recognize that in a photo, did it dawn on you that, now it makes sense why they would have tossed that into a pile of seconds? Was it that pronounced to you?
Okay, well, here you go. Here comes my woodshop experience, right? Because what frustrates me is everybody says, oh, yeah, this was garbage. Eddie took it out of the garbage. It was no good for anything, right? No, it's a second. And what a second means is it has an imperfection or a knot or whatever. It's not perfect. So you can't give that to somebody if they're expecting to just put a clear coat on it, like a piece of furniture or whatever. So, you know, every wood shop does this. Yeah. And you have paint grade, you have stain grade, clear, you know. So I did a video where I actually analyzed a lot of those Met pictures and found that, you know, the seam that runs down the middle of a two-piece body should go dead center. Yeah. It shouldn't be off to the side or on an angle. Eddie's is on a 5-degree angle.
Wow.
So it's like, well, what the hell's going on here? There's no reason it should be at a 5-degree angle. Until I figured, okay, well, you're going to put a template on there. So if you turn the template 5 degrees, you're moving away from that knot. So that tells you right away They knew the knot hole was there right from when they glued those two pieces together. So they were taking pieces that they didn't want to throw away. They're perfectly good. And they looked at this one piece and they said, it's got a big knot in it. Yeah, but if we put it in the bottom, we can get the bottom horn will cut out. And
they can compensate.
Went to do that, and they cut it out with the bandsaw, and well, it's still there. Okay, well, we'll turn the template a little bit more. They turned it as far as you can before you go outside the parameter of the blank,
outside the box. Yeah.
So if you look behind the bridge, right where the strap holder is behind the on the side of the guitar, where there's some paint missing there, and you can see some grain and stuff like that with the black. If you look really careful, there's lines going perpendicular to the body. There's only one reason there's lines. Those are bandsaw marks. So that proves that what they did is they shifted that template as far as they possibly could.
Wow.
It also proves that the body's not completely finished, that they needed to do more work sanding.
Yeah.
And, so you can almost tell where that body was. It had a sealer on the front and on the back. And more than likely, it was an epoxy sealer, which would be very thick. And they might have, I don't know I'd love to talk to Wayne Charvel because he would have a lot of answers this way. But I don't know if they had like a big sander where you could just take the body with the thick sealer and just run it through. And it would be like a planer, but with sandpaper, like a big strip.
Yeah.
And what you would have at the other end is like a perfectly smooth body. There'd be no grain at all in it. And it seems that that's what's on the Frankie. And if you look at a lot of 1978 shots, the black, on the face of there's no grain at all. I mean, it almost looks like, like a meniscus curve where, it hasn't been sanded yet. It was waiting, to go through. Well, the knot hasn't even been filled yet. So we know there's a lot of things that had to be done to the body. And, I think Eddie went in and he kept talking to these guys. No, I want something cheaper. Do you got something cheaper? Well, I don't know. We've gone through everything we have. Well, what about those over there? Yeah, but those aren't even finished yet. Well,
Yeah.
I think he argued his way to get to that, I think he saved his pennies a lot,
That's that upbringing from his parents, I'm sure.
I think so. You look at how many necks and bodies, how many of them had imperfections on them? Why would, even when he was making money, the bumblebee neck had a giant knot in the headstock. Like, what was, by then he would have been able to say, no, I don't want the one with the knot. Give me a perfect one. But for some reason, he's like, no, give me the one with the knot in it.
Yep.
It makes it easy for us, though, because we can track all this shit.
Yeah, right?
Good thing.
That's how I found out I could prove that the Jenny Lenz photo, that, the black Frankie and the Whiskey Go-Go in 77. And I always wondered, is this Frankie? I'm pretty sure it is. I mean, it definitely has everything that you would expect to see, but, you needed that proof. And, oh, my God, when I discovered the knot and you could see the two little dots from a straight-up shot, I was like, let's go back and take a look. And it's almost out of the frame of that photo. Like, when they took the photo, if they had just moved it up slightly, we wouldn't be able to tell. But it's like a little fingerprint. It's, it was right there. It clinches it. It's the body.
Well,
You should solve crimes on a true crime TV show, by the way.
It is. It's like forensic. You're like
it really is.
I mean, you literally could track down like serial killers in your spare time.
Yeah.
The way you pick up these clues, your mind must work so fast, man.
Yeah. We'll start a show called CSI Van Halen.
Yeah, CSI VH, right?
It's funny because when I did that video, like I didn't go to make that video. I didn't think like, hey, what would be a cool video. I was doing this on my own. I wanted to find out if that was the Frankie body or not, because if it was, then I can use it to make my Frankenstein. I can look at it and actually use it as reference. So I was doing all these superimposing things, with photo filters and stuff like that, and then finally I figured out the knot, and I was like, oh man, this would make a great video. So I put it together and I put it out there, and that was the first like deep dive, I guess you could say, that I put out there. And I didn't know how it was going to be received, and it did fairly good views. And then I got up one Saturday morning, like, let's check out my YouTube channel. Like I got like 8,000 views overnight. I was like, whoa, what's going on here?
Wow.
Let's check out some of these comments, and people were saying, you need to take up like internet porn and private.
Right.
You need to get a life. Nobody should be thinking this much about anything.
Well,
I went like, what did I do wrong? Did I offend people by doing that? I thought it was kind of
People
cool.
have just too much time.
Well,
to waste.
honestly, I was going to ask you about your views in this type of stuff, because the one thing that I think we've all kind of encountered are so when a certain, I guess, demographic of people in this community have their mind set on a certain thing, you can't change it. They're never going to change their mind.
It's like a religion.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Yeah. And when I watch your videos, I'm fascinated and excited every time I discover something new. I'm excited. I'm like, I feel like it's Christmas morning again. Oh, I didn't know that. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that probably spend a whole lot of time and energy trying to prove you wrong.
People don't want to be wrong too, and Johnny proves some of people's
Yeah.
wrong.
Well,
and the thing is, once
back at the beginning, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and that's a shame. That's such a shame.
Yeah. And and I was like, when I was talking about that video getting the bad comments, like I actually sat there and I'm like, okay, I'll let the video go for the end of the day, and if I'm still getting these comments, I'll take it down and never do that again. I'll just do my build videos and that'll be it. And I waited to the end of the day and I checked the comments, and I word for word, it was almost like the guy said, "This is the best video I've ever seen on YouTube ever."
Opinions do vary.
You read.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history.
Well,
and
I
I'll
think
tell you, I get the nicest comments from people.
You should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Blows me away.
You should,
Because
but I only bring this up though because as a creator, as an artistic, creative entity, and things like that, I don't know if you feel the same way, but if any venture that I set off to do, I have the type of personality where 99 great comments can mean, okay, cool, I feel good about myself, and one bad comment will make me dwell on it for weeks. And that's just the nature of the artist.
The nature of the artist.
Isn't that guy
Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
That's why artists become artists.
Exactly. No, you're right. That's the way we are. We're wired that way.
I think what's great about what you do is that aside from the scientific stuff, you just step back to the time and the mindset of what he was probably thinking. Just like what you pointed about the red paint that Alex and him were probably using to paint the numbers on the sidewalk. I mean the black and white paint.
Black and white, yeah.
For the sidewalks, and obviously they would have some of that laying around. Well, there you go. That's why the guitars were black. I mean, just like that's like a revelation. It's like, oh my God, yeah, that makes complete sense. You know what I mean? So
he was trying to come up with a design. Why didn't he use the stencils? And then I thought, in 2007, they had those prototype guitars that he took on the road. And what did they do? They put stencils on every single one.
It did.
Black and white. And it's like he was laughing. He was going, nobody's gonna.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think it just in general, the passion and the excitement you have for doing this stuff kind of gets my juices going. I mean, I referenced this earlier, but the point where you like go through the whole month of March '77 and talk about the weather reports and the days that it rained based on California weather, like when you put all that stuff out there, even if I was somebody that disagreed with your science, and I don't know how you can disagree with science, but if I was one of those that disagreed and said, no, you say it's blue, I say it's, whatever, that type of thing, I would still be fascinated by the delivery and the passion you presented. I think what the depths that you go to are riveting to watch.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Yeah, all of us.
But my approach really is I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything.
I get that. I get that. I've always interpreted this as this is your journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is what I've found. This is and I could be wrong. I may be wrong on things. And you know what? When I find out I'm wrong, I'll come back and say, okay, I'm going to make a change here.
And you have done that on videos.
I think I probably have. Yeah. I show my mistakes.
You're harder on yourself though than someone could be on you, because you're like, well, I didn't have to tell you that, but, and you're like honest to a fault. You're like, but I realized I did this wrong, and so I went back and spent another 20 hours and did it again. I'm like, that is awesome.
Yeah,
like,
because you will, some of your videos will have an updated voiceover where
the
you'll
amount
say,
of hours
yeah,
I
you'll
just-
mention something like I was wrong about this, but now
I mean, I just couldn't, imagine the amount of hours, and we just, just know we all appreciate it, you know.
Absolutely.
Johnny's links
so
are down
awesome.
below too, by the way. And I would be willing to bet everybody watching and on replay already knows you, Johnny. So
Well, that's kind of cool, man. Like, it's weird telling people that I work with, like, what I do, like, oh, you build guitars, like, yeah, and then they go, like, what, acoustic, and it's like, no, it's not even like that. Like, I can't even begin.
I get the same thing.
Like, how could you explain it to them if they don't know it? Yeah.
That I painted, right? And I had that at work, and my boss looked at it. He goes, "Oh, that's kind of interesting. What's going on with that?" And right away, I'm like, "If you know, you know." I'm not even bothered. If you don't, it's like I've never heard of Shakespeare. Can you explain to me in 2 seconds who he is? Like,
yeah.
And I didn't mean to be rude, because other people heard me say it, and they're like, "Oh, that was so cool what you said." But you know what it's like talking to people online that don't understand something, and they try to argue with you, and it's like, well, I can sit here all night with you, but you like, I've told some people I don't really argue with anybody. Like, I present facts, and then if they don't believe it, I walk away. But I've said to people, you can shoehorn things all you want, but it doesn't make it so.
Sure.
That's a really good point.
Things
I knew you
love to see, but if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen.
I knew you and Chris Gill would hit it off, because Chris is very similar to you. I mean, we're talking about the weather reports. When Chris was looking up the weather reports for the night that Ted Templeman went to see the band about the rain, I think they were at the Troubadour or whatever. I forget the whole story right now, but Chris did that too. He went back and looked at to see what the weather was that night, because it was supposed to have been a rainy night, and it was like,
right.
So I could see you guys would probably hit it off perfectly.
Well, we do. We like when he was doing that article for Guitar World, he got in touch with me, and we spent like 2 weeks just texting back and forth, photos and stuff, just nerding out like crazy. But he would say really nice things where he would say like that I question, and that's all it is you question, why is that the way it is. I don't accept what is popular belief just because everybody says that. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. So it's sometimes hard to do that. Some people just want to be spoon-fed and read the Wikipedia page and
Right.
Yeah. Have you ever read the Wikipedia page on the Frankie?
I haven't. No.
No, I never have.
You're in for a treat.
After this interview, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do we need to do it right now?
Who the hell wrote this?
All in the world.
Oh God. Yeah. No, I'm fascinated by you. You take us on like this artist journey, and you're constantly rediscovering new things too, which is, anybody that creates anything, whether you're creating music, lyrics, stories, art, whatever, anything like that. I love the fact that you're constantly you're constantly pursuing something. And when you came back recently and started adding the colored glue on the edges of your stripes and things like that, and painted like that kind of thing, which weren't in your original videos, I love the fact that you're going back and we're constantly learning something new. I thought that was brilliant.
And I'm always afraid that people are going to criticize and say, like, you're never going to finish this guitar. Like, people can do these in a weekend. You're taking years. What's going on? It will get there.
Yeah.
But you're right.
But it's like building a watch by hand. The guys that do that, there's like watchmakers that are like, well, last year I made 2, and this year I'm thinking I might make 3 watches this year, and their watches go for like $100,000 a piece. So they only have to make 2 or 3 a year. But that's the level of detail you go into. So you should never be ashamed of your precision and perfection. I think it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's I've been pretty much like this my entire life. So, the
amount of hours you put in shows, it's obvious.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, and those of us, you know, that do similar things to what you do. I think every single guitar I've ever built, painted, sold, whatever, I've constantly thought after the fact, "Oh, I wish I would have done this. Oh, I could have done this. I could have like."
Oh, yeah.
And you know, you're always going to do that. I've never once been like, "That's perfect." It's never.
No, it would be pretty boring that day, wouldn't it?
Sure,
If you built
it
something
really
perfect.
would. It really would.
It really would.
As a matter of fact, thank God I've never built anything to perfection, because then what's the point of doing it ever again?
Exactly.
Interesting.
I think, you know, that day that I heard Eruption for the first time, I'd only been playing guitar for maybe a week, and I was totally fascinated. Like the guitar was everything. I was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever held in my hands. But I think what Eruption taught me was, you'll never, ever get to the end of this. This is a journey you can spend for the rest of your life. You're never, ever going to get bored. If
You heard Eruption a week after you started playing guitar?
What's that?
You heard Eruption a week after you started playing?
Yeah.
That's good timing.
Not bad.
Or bad timing. Or bad timing.
You know my timing, right, Tony?
That
Keyboards?
is impeccable timing.
Johnny, what'd you say about keyboards?
The Doors and Van Halen, and I was
yeah.
really into the Doors, and you know, Raymond Zarek, and I used to do the, you know, the air piano, you know, and I was like, it's so cool to play like him. And then the guitar took over.
That's
You're talking
awesome.
about the Taurus bass pedals?
What's that?
Did you say Taurus as in the Taurus bass pedals? Yeah.
You talking about Raymond Zarek and the?
No, he said the Doors.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought. I was like, that's, you know, prog rock, jazz kind of stuff.
I think somebody had a question in the chat. It might have been Holly. Holly had a question in the chat earlier.
Let's find it.
Yeah, it was earlier, and it was about the Shark guitar, I believe. Right, Holly, out there?
I'm scrolling upwards.
Somebody had asked about the stop sign guitar too.
Yes,
Yes.
that's right. But I knew we would get there because I know all of us have already seen it. But
Oh, it might have been the Circles guitar she was asking about. I don't think it was. Let's see.
okay, no, the Circles. She's saying.
Yep, Circles.
It's probably about the color of the guitar.
What were you asking specifically?
You think it's blue?
Is it the blue black?
Is it blue or is it black or is it?
Okay, here.
Or is it white gold?
Yes.
Does Johnny think?
Good question.
Does Johnny think black or blue on the Circles? That was it. That was the question.
Okay. I think I do have the answer for this. You know, in searching for, you know, paint and things like that, what I've done is I've tried to search out old Schwinn bicycle cans, right? And this is the thing, people collect them and actually sell them. So I try to find these things just as an interest. I save the photos for reference, but I think I've found every color that Eddie ever used on a guitar. The name, you know, for the codes and stuff like that. I found just after there was like the rumor that, oh, it's not black, it's blue. And I found a can of Schwinn bicycle paint. This goes back a few years, you know, like 30 years ago. It says dark blue right on the lid. But when you look at the lid, it's a black lid. Like there's no blue in it. It's just a black lid. And right there, I was like, okay. If Schwinn made the color, then it's totally possible that, yeah, the Unchained guitar is actually blue instead of black. But it looks black.
Wow.
Essentially, it's black, right? I mean, it's like black with 2 drops of blue in it. That's what they did.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is that Schwinn actually made a black and called it blue.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And even the Raspberry guitar, like the green, that's that candy apple green. That there's white under that green. Every time I've seen anybody, it's like you know, a replica. I always look. I'm like, okay, did they figure it out? No, I don't see it.
Nope.
It's so much fun though to experiment with like, the stuff in the paint, like I've just started to experiment with doing like sparkle stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I'm doing something for someone, but it's like a sparkle pink, and man, it's really in your face. I mixed it's nitro, but I'm mixing it all from like a clear base paint and then using all the dyes, mixing all those myself. But it's funny because I find being colorblind, I can't see a lot of stuff, but it's easier to match stuff.
Oh wow,
that's interesting.
Johnny's
that kind of stuff. It is so cool. Like you say with the dyes, it transforms your thinking. Of what paint is and what you can do with it, especially with stuff like metallics underneath and heavy plates.
Let me grab this one here.
Yeah.
Johnny, Jesse's Guitars is asking to see the stop sign guitar.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I didn't think anybody would actually request, but oh yeah, that's cool, man.
But it was just kind of like an experiment, and it's it's blocking out. No, it's blocking out the back, but you can't. It doesn't pick up on the thing, but it's the type of sparkles I use.
No, that's you just held it at an angle where we saw the glitter.
Yeah.
We were able to see it.
Tilt it back a little bit.
Look at it again.
Turn that off. Here.
That's the thing.
There you go.
There it is.
There got it.
Nice.
Oh, dude, that's.
But
awesome.
what you can't see is this has a real nice clear coat on it. It's just, it almost looks like it's rough, because the light coming off, but that's the light actually going through the clear coat and hitting the sparkles. But I put the sparkles on in different layers.
Oh, wow.
So it's about 7 layers of clear coat that had sparkle in it, and then another 5 layers of clear coat with nothing in it. So on the back, obviously, you could tell it was an experiment. I tried going heavy in some areas to see what I could do, and I was, doing different things.
I think that looks cool that way, though.
I like it.
Not meant as a presentation thing, but as more of like but you can't really get the effect unless you're in person that, these spots like this just look like they're like a smear of gray. Well, if you see it in person when the light hits it, they're actually just a thicker level of sparkles in different layers of paint. But each layer, is so thin because I sanded it paper thin just to keep enough sparkle. Kind of like if you're slicing wood that has epoxy in it, you want to keep that chunk of epoxy within that piece, that you slice. So I would keep each layer as thin as I could.
It's beautiful.
So cool.
Yeah, that would look cool under stage lights.
Yeah.
That would be a cool live stage guitar.
Blind someone. Anyway, I didn't mean to get off topic, but I love doing that kind of stuff. So.
All right. So let's see this guitar. We all know this guitar already. So, dude. Oh,
man.
Look.
Man.
Wow.
That's character. Holy shit.
That is so sick.
Look at this.
Wow.
Those are real bullet holes, too. They're not fake.
Yeah, you can tell.
That's incredible.
Especially the top one, you can see the flexing on the metal.
Dude, that is sick.
That is
look at this.
Cool. Oh, my God.
Wow. I don't
That's
know what to
awesome.
say.
That is just awesome.
hold that up.
It's actually it's an arch top.
That's a hollow body then, right?
Yeah, by definition, it's a semi-hollow body now.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
cool.
fiberglass back that I molded.
Oh, wow.
Look at that.
The furniture edge, and you know what you have probably on your desk right now? It's like 3 millimeters thick.
So you
Is it light? How much is it lightweight?
No.
It looks lightweight. No, is it heavy?
Yeah, this is steel, the sign. It's not an aluminum one.
Oh, okay.
So it put
Man.
a lot of weight.
Old
Wow.
sign.
It weighs a ton, right?
And then I modified.
Oh, man, that's custom.
Whoa. How did you come up with like the best looking new headstock that doesn't look shitty? I'm sorry, like I would buy a headstock like that right away because it looks like a violin to me.
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
it does.
That's what I thought of. Yes.
I thought I want to make. I love the Fender headstock, right? But I wanted to come up with something like as if they took it from me and simplified it. So I kind of reverse engineered, I guess, right?
Gotcha.
Huh, that's
Came up
cool.
with that little scroll, and
That's really cool.
this was
But
originally
I like the little
shredder
point
mic.
at the top too because it's unique. And I also like the vibe of it. To me, is more like it's coming from like a 66 to early 70s Strat, which is my favorite. I have a 69. I don't know. I put it somewhere here. I have a 69 Strat, the big headstock, but it's got that
that's right.
violin-y look to it. Now, is this just for you, or are you gonna maybe in the future produce those?
No, this was for me. I mean, I would make one for somebody, a little more simplified, I think. But yeah, I'd do it. But it was a project to really push things, to see how far I could do it. And I mean, this was a huge project because really this I made this for a slide guitar, like I've never really learned how to play slide guitar. So I thought if I make a guitar, maybe I'll learn. But I haven't.
Very cool. Very cool.
But to the neck with the bottom screw, if you just adjust that, like loosen the strings and then just turn it a couple of times, the neck will actually like bend up a little bit.
Oh,
it's like
wow.
a teeter-totter. Go back and forth.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, it
Very
was
cool,
a fun
man.
project. This took me like 4 years to make.
Yeah, I bet.
So are you just a self-taught tinkerer, or do you have like a background in engineering, or
No,
'cause
I've always
you think like a total engineer?
I when I was a kid, like I get toys for Christmas or something, and by the time you play with them for a little while, and then that was it. But then I would get a screwdriver and take them apart.
Me too.
And I'd be like, I don't want my parents seeing that I'm ruining this, right? I would hide it, but I think they knew, and I think they figured, hey, most kids would end up it would be at the bottom of a toy box. At least he's figuring something out, right, and learning. And that's really, I think, where a lot of it started. And then by the time I was like 14, I was making my own bicycles and painting them, and
Nice.
totally ripping the things apart and respoking the wheels and all that kind of stuff. Like nothing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and then you get ideas, right? Well, if I can do that, maybe I can come up with something really unusual or my own. And then when Van Halen came along and I started reading articles about Eddie, that's exactly what he was saying about guitars, right? Oh, I don't have the money. And I used to go around garbage day when I was a kid and pull broken bikes out of people's garbages and drag them all home and get my, the tools out and take them all apart. Because I was like a BMX guy, right? And you know how like your bikes don't last long. You snap axles and forks.
Need parts.
Yep.
The foot pedals just break off after a while. So I didn't have the money to go to a store and buy all the high end bike BMX stuff. It was all expensive. So I'd go. They're pretty interchangeable. Even stuff off a 10-speed will fit. Like your BMX bike, like a bearing or something, right?
Yep.
So, is that a necessity? And I ended up making my own bikes. I'd have like so many parts left over. And now I'm doing the guitars. Excellent.
I have a coworker because I work in education and it's not for the paycheck. So to earn extra money, like a lot of us do, he buys bikes off of Craigslist, and he's like a bike mechanic, like equivalent of like if he was an auto mechanic, he'd be working on Ferraris. He can work on the cheapest little kid's bike to the most expensive racing bike, and he gets them all fixed up, charges a reasonable percentage increase for his time, and just flips them like that. But it's like a good mechanic. You can look at any bike and go and know exactly what's just by looking at it almost, you know?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Nice. Nice.
Right.
Man, oh man. That's what time it is.
Sounds like it's trivia time.
Oh, trivia. Where are we at? All right, so we're an hour and change in trivia. All right, let's do this like that.
Nice.
How about it?
Get a sweatshirt.
We'll put John in the middle. All right. Okay. All right, I'll grab some tea after trivia. So we're going to do some trivia for tonight. Going to involve a picture. All right, let me find this stuff. All right, there it is. Thank you, Sandra. Right on. All right, there'll be. I'm gonna show you a picture, and then I'm gonna ask you a question about the picture. And we're gonna play for tonight. We're gonna play for a blue, a pretty one.
Oh, that's
A David
freaking
Lee
cool.
Roth. Eat 'em,
Nice.
Smile. Peel it off and smile. Stick it and smile. Don't
Nice.
peel it off if you win it. You want to keep this. But if you win, there's an email address down below. Trivia winners email. Email me your name and address. I'll mail you that cool David Lee Roth Eat 'em and Smile pass out. Thanks for being here. All right, trivia for tonight. All right, so let's get a. So this picture, Memorial Day. It's right up on my wall behind me. You see it often. All right, so
Iwo Jima.
the question for tonight that goes with this is, where is the location of this photo shoot?
I told you, Tony, Iwo Jima.
Pokorney Beach.
All right. Let me scroll down.
Off the highway.
All right, all right, I need the exact location of that photo shoot for you to score on the David Lee Roth pass. Let's see.
I'm pretty proud of us backstage, you guys. We all pretty much got it within a pretty close.
Yeah.
Actually, with me, it was dumb luck for me, but I'm very proud of it. So
that's what you're playing for.
There's some of these are good.
Nice answers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so keep the answers coming and we'll continue. Yeah, so Johnny, me and you talked a couple of days ago about some extraordinary new Van Halen news out in the world all of a sudden, and then coincidentally, we're gonna give him that. Ed, yeah.
You rock, Ed. Well done, brother.
Yeah. So
a couple of you came close. I went really quick. Keith Campbell said just off the 101, but it would have been the 134. So the 134 and the 5 were Forest Lawn. So a couple of you guys came really close.
Yeah. Zlaz did that. They did an original shoot that had a dirt background, landscape background, and they found this location on Forest Lawn Drive and had the sky background, the one they kept. So there you go, Ed.
You rock,
right
Ed.
on.
Well done, brother.
Ed, I know you've won here before, but please resend your email or your name and address, and I'll mail you out that cool David Lee Roth pass. Thanks for being here. You rock. Dude, you did it, dude.
Yep.
Right.
Ed, also send a picture of you dressed as Priest Ed again, too, because that's just
Absolutely.
funny. Yeah, so what was I about to say?
With socks pulled up
New
to
Van
his
Halen
knees.
news.
Yes, new Van Halen news. But before that, a lot of you in the chat, a lot of you watching on replay, there is some huge Van Halen stuff out there right now that we're going to touch on some points of interest. And coincidentally, there's a Rolling Stone article about a super fan. That's not what I'm talking about, but that also. Um, but anyway, first, we um, are running a contest this month of July here on this channel. Let me show you this. So, the photo contest. So,
Oh
send us
yeah.
photos of your Van Halen guitars. Um,
A lot of
and,
pictures have been submitted.
and what we're going to give you for the winner, what you can win is the 56-inch EVH leather strap. And this is the all leather. There's two sizes. This is the larger of the two, the 56. So us big guys, send
And tall guys.
send the pictures right of your guitars to the Show Me Your Pick fan page on Facebook. The links are right down below. Okay. We're going to keep this contest going all month. The 27th, live here, Wednesday, the 27th, we'll announce the winner. A lot of cool pictures already sent in. We unveiled this a couple days ago, but yeah, keep them coming. They're cool. So, be original. You know.
Hey, R2, R3,
Hey,
Hawk,
original.
got in the chat. It's good to see you, brother.
R2, good to see you, bro.
Right there.
R3, it's good to see you.
Right on, dude. But yeah, so let me ask John Conklin this. So John, this Rolling Stone article, let's start right there. Okay. This is about a super fan who befriended Eddie on the 2015 tour. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was right. I think he said it was right before the tour started. I guess it seemed like that's the time period.
Okay.
Just a guy who used to be a journalist, oddly enough, which is I would have thought that Eddie would have just shut him out right away when he found that out, which he didn't, and he knew. The guy told him it early on that he used to be a journalist, and I guess the guy used to work for Rolling Stone, as a matter of fact. And so I guess the guy in his line of work now, he had access to people's email addresses and stuff, and he found one that was Eddie's and figured, what the hell? So he wrote a snarky email to him and telling him to get Michael Anthony back in the band and stuff like that, which you would think Eddie would just ignore it anyway if it was him. But sure enough, he responded back, and then it went on from there, and it completely shifted around to up until a few months before he died. They apparently kept in touch. It was actually pretty cool. Really cool story.
It was a cool article. That he did say at first that it took him several emails to believe that it really was him.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So then
and that went up.
It advanced to texting, and they would text each other. Obviously it wasn't just about music and Van Halen. It was just about life, because obviously Eddie didn't, wasn't very secretive about all his treatments for cancer with him. I guess he trusted this guy, Blair, the guy's name was, and about all his, cancer treatments and everything that was going on. He, would keep in touch with him about that. And even to the point where he said he was like stage 3 or stage 4. And Blair, the guy, was completely shocked, you know what I mean, about that. And, it was I thought it was a really nice story. It was
Hey,
like,
Simon.
Wow. It was pretty
What's
cool.
up, Simon?
Nice to see you,
Haas.
If you haven't read it, definitely go out of your way to
Yeah.
read it. It was kind of like a touching little story there at the end there, just to
Well,
I haven't read it yet because I think it's gonna be really emotional.
well,
it kind of was. Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah.
when they became online friendly, they had the tour, and him and his buddies got VIPs and actually met
Wow,
Eddie, and
that's so cool.
apparently they met in person a time or two more, and talked on the phone weekly, regularly, and this went on. The text and calls went on until just a couple, 2, 3 months in the timeline before October, so like August. So yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing when you read it there, and
yeah,
and this guy's wife was a physician's assistant. So and Eddie, I guess, would be telling him all this complex medical stuff. He would be texting him with him about that was going on. He said, I'd have to talk to my wife to decipher. What does this mean? What does it mean? Stuff like that, It's really when you hear it, we've all heard like stories about Eddie, the stuff time he was at the emergency room and told the doctor there, hey, give me your address. I'm going to give you one of my guitars. And then he calls him a week later and says, where do you live? And he shows up at his house and sits on his living room floor for a couple hours playing the guitar. And he's like, this doctor's like, I can't believe this. Eddie Van Halen sitting on my living room floor, playing guitar, showing me how to play things on guitar, and the guy,
badass.
Yeah, that was, you hear crazy stories like that all the time, or about the time
sweetheart.
on the Guitar Center on Ventura Boulevard, and I guess Sherman Oaks. I guess Ed used to go there, and some kid came up to him and was asking him how you mic up a guitar amp, and Eddie bought him a couple SM57s. And
no way.
Yeah, and then a week later, apparently the kid came back to try to return them, and then the guys in the store were like, "Yo, kid, you can't be serious. Do you know who bought you those things like that? And you're going to return these things?" I was like,
wow.
Yeah, it was like something like I had heard a story about that, and they said it was like, you got to be kidding, kid. You know what I mean? What are you doing? But just random stories, and that's or the one where there was some guy was saying he knew Eddie Van Halen, and he promised these kids in this I guess that were handicapped that
I heard this one, yeah.
And then Eddie actually got back to him, and quietly he, without any press or anybody knowing, he actually went to the place, drove up by himself, and spent the afternoon with all these, handicapped kids and stuff like that. You hear cool stories like that all the time. But this is just
me personally,
Yeah, I definitely, it would. They're all very touching. So when you hear something like this, it's not really shocking, because it's just like I would expect.
He was a sweetheart. Yeah.
Something kind of cool like that, because he was just a cool guy, man. You could tell. And you know what? And just the way he speaks in there, it's just like it explains a lot to all of us who, when the whole thing went down with Michael Anthony, when he he went to play with Sammy and he was kicked out of the band or whatever like that, and and a lot of us just you kind of like feel bad, like, well, Michael Anthony got kind of screwed. But when you read this article, you kind of look at in his words. I'm not, saying anything negative against Mike. Mike wanted to go out and play, but he did that. But
Mike
Eddie
went with Sam, and that's betrayal. That's like
Well,
when Roth. He compared it to Roth.
he
when
said
he
it was
left.
worse in a lot of ways than Roth. And he said, at that time, obviously Eddie was sick at that time with the cancer already, and it was just him and Alex and Mike, and then Mike kind of bailed on him. That's the way they felt, and so I guess that's where that anger came from. But he also kind of lays out the whole thing with Sammy, why Sammy was, worse than David Lee Roth with what he did, because they said they never argued with Dave about money. It was never about money with him or anything like that. But with Sammy, they felt like he was using them just to make, money and stuff like that, with this tequila and all that kind of stuff, So, but when you hear it in his own words, or the way this guy describes it, you become a little more compassionate to the brother's side. I did anyway. I was like, well, you know what? Now I feel like that explains it a little more clearly. You know what I mean? Because there was such a blackout of information for years from the brothers. they would never comment on anything, and you were just left to speculate. And then when we all speculate, you know what happens.
And they looked bad in that scenario most of the time.
You're absolutely right. But now when you read this article, I kind of felt like, hey, you know what? I kind of see their side of it now. You know what I mean? A little more, which is kind of cool. You know what I mean? It's like, well, why didn't he just come out and say this kind of stuff then? You know,
Right?
You know,
right.
I'm saying, man, if I had emailed him that day, I would have been like, dude, just stop talking about my. You know, I know you love
Jim
your
Ray Hawkins.
I know you love Wolfgang and stuff
Welcome,
like
dude.
that, but you don't have to sit and defend him like this because you know, just let him do your son do his thing, play in the band and stuff like that. But the more and more you talk about Michael Anthony negative, the more and more people get mad at you, Eddie. You know what I mean? It's just like, but because he didn't really verbalize it, you know, in a way that would make everybody,
nice
you
to
know,
see you are too.
Feel his side of the story. Everybody kind of took Michael Anthony's side there too. Which, listen, things happen. You know what I mean? Obviously, but I just thought it was a great. If anybody hasn't read it, read it. It is, you know, it's sad. It's, you know, because you know what the ending is going to be, Tom. You know, so it is emotional on there. But it just goes to show you that he was just, you know, a nice guy. That he struck up a friendship with this guy. It's an incredible story to hear.
Yes.
You know, 2 years later after he's gone now. You know what I mean? So it's really cool. Check it out if you haven't. It's all over the place now though. But that ties in with Tony, like we were saying, with another bunch of information that was out this week too on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody know, you know, Dave and Dave, they've done a podcast, a Van Halen podcast for years, and they had an insider on there, you know, Gold Throat, I think they call it, instead of Deep Throat, Gold Throat. And
yeah, they I don't know those guys, but I love their stuff. You know,
it's very
love
popular.
their stuff. Yeah,
very popular podcast.
Very much so. But their latest one had some holy smokes moments.
It did. It was very eye-opening and connected a lot of dots too.
Yes,
absolutely.
They connected a lot of. They connected a lot of dots. Yeah, they. So this. Now, who is this person, John, who they interviewed?
Well,
they said it is somebody, an insider, a longtime insider.
Yeah.
That
you could speculate who it was, but
they didn't want to be identified.
They emphasized that it was a respectable and somebody who could be trusted source.
Right. So
and that's it. That's
and to the point where the person obviously didn't want their voice used or even their voice disguised, I guess.
Gender or anything.
They didn't want any, right, exactly. Because
was it at the initials MB?
I don't.
Or C or CE or, you know.
Let me just and let me first say, this is the stuff in that show was the most groundbreaking Van Halen news I've heard at once in a long time.
There's a lot of it.
Yeah,
there's a lot of it. It's overwhelming.
But
Sandra just put a link to the Rolling Stone article in the chat there, so thank you, Sandra.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and there it is. You can grab it and save it. Pop. Yeah. So let's just chunk a nugget out there, John, shall we?
Sure, go for it.
All right. Just so
nugget dance.
The person that they say all this stuff is a lifer insider. But just one little thing that we'll talk about a moment on a light note in there, but it's just so much Van Halen gold in there. All right. It was said that this person knows for a fact that our beloved 81 Oakland 3-song stuff that we adore and have been watching since I was in the 8th grade. Well, apparently that stuff is by originally owned by Pete Angelus, who designed their stage and lighting in the early days of road work with them.
Yeah, who's Pete? He manages some like famous bands now. Pete Angelus. I don't know.
Yeah,
Does anybody know Keith? Anybody in the chat?
it was a Canadian band he met. No, who did he? The Black Crows.
I don't know. He's been in
Yeah,
the industry
exactly. There you go.
forever.
The Black Crows is who
Yeah.
he managed. Yeah,
Yeah.
but there it said. Now here's the gold here that there's a whole Oakland show, but hold on to your hats. There's also a Anaheim complete show from 81 and a San Jose show complete from 81. That's what it says.
Yeah.
All three.
And
and Pete has them.
Yeah, and apparently in Dave's basement there's tons of tapes of stuff too that they did when back in 2001, 2002. All those new songs that they recorded that some of the stuff they didn't use, I guess, on A Different Kind of Truth, because those were the new songs on A Different Kind of Truth weren't really new. They were from those sessions, I guess. Originally, they re-recorded them, I guess, for that. But apparently, there's a lot of stuff in boxes in Dave's basement. So I don't know if they're just cassettes or rough mixes or whatever like that. But apparently, there's a lot of stuff down there that he has. You know what that article, which that article, I was saying I was a little more compassionate towards the brothers in the other article. Well, this article, it made me feel like Dave. Well, the other article did too, the Rolling Stone one, but it made me feel like Dave was. We all know they always claim Dave was difficult to work with, but apparently, even both. I get the feeling from both of these articles that he really was pretty difficult to work with. He didn't, to get him to sign off on anything or do anything was just very, very difficult and long and drawn out for every little thing. He was very, standoffish and just very difficult to work with. I mean, in that Rolling Stone, just to jump back to that, I mean, they were at a point where towards the end of the tour that Dave wasn't even speaking to Eddie at all. Eddie said to the guy in there, he would speak to Alex a bit, but that was it. He wouldn't even speak to Eddie at all. So they would have no contact at all. But he did say that Hollywood Bowl show where Dave said those really nice things, I spent the best years of my life with you guys here, that was all legit and like heartfelt. Because I guess at the end there, they had all their high school friends backstage, or they spent the afternoon that day with a lot of their old friends and things like that. And I guess nostalgia kicked in and Dave, let down his guard, I guess. But I just got the impression that everything with that's why other than Eddie being sick, I guess the lack of output over the last 20 years, a lot of that had to do with Dave, not wanting to work on certain music songs and different things. So
this, if you listen to this Dave and Dave, and it is golden. You get the sense that the person knows Roth and is around Roth more than the Van Halens.
That's the guess. My guess too is that, because when you read it, you feel like he's more of a Roth insider kind of guy.
Another interesting point we can talk about that stands out is the time frame between 2001 and 2004. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
2001, Roth comes back. They're writing music. They want to do an album. They want to go out on the road. Ed is not sober. Dave leaves the project. That music sits. Eventually becomes a lot of it. They said in it, what, John, 6 songs?
Yeah.
Became what we know on A Different Kind of Truth. And one of the songs ended up being the Sammy Hagar on the Greatest Hits, Best of Both Worlds, Up for Breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But so Dave aborted that, they're saying, and then 2004 comes. We all know that that's the summer, and they started that in Greensboro, by the way, with Sammy Hagar.
Mhm.
But apparently, they're saying that
Dave.
Roth was offered that, and he refused it because Ed wasn't sober.
Hmm.
He refused. They went to Sammy. He took it, and that's what happened.
He took it. Things went poorly. He wrote that book, and that was it for him. And that book, apparently, that was the cause of the main. I mean, they had it. They had it in for Sammy, but that sealed Sammy's fate when he put that book out. That was it with them because there's just too much personal stuff in there, and there is no forgiving him for that. I mean, even I know he says that him and Eddie made up a few months before that, which I'm sure they did. I'm sure they made peace, but I don't think Alex has really spoken to Sammy much since then, really at any
Right.
length, Because I know Sammy was even saying, "Oh, I can't get in touch with the guy," or I tried to talk to him, I only talked to him once, or something like that, because I'm sure there's still, some bad blood there. There would have to be, I guess, because they made it clear in these articles here, especially that one, that it was never about money with Dave. It was always maybe about the creative side of things, but they never fought with him really about money. Even when the publishing stuff, I guess, came up where he was kind of getting ripped off from the publishing, it got straightened out, and it was, there was nothing like that. But they made that very clear in that thing that Sammy, that wasn't the case. It was completely a money, hit from his point of view, And you know what? If you look back when Sammy joined the band, and that they remember that MTV special early on, and I mean, I remember Sammy saying that I was basically as big as they were. Remember? Did you guys remember that? It was like his ego.
I remember it like it was yesterday, John.
Yeah, right, Charles. Remember he said he was like,
Yes.
I was as big as them.
Yeah.
I took a pay cut to join this band, and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
and even back
No,
then,
I'm sorry. The facts
we
do not
cringed.
stack up to that.
Like they were the biggest band on the planet in
Yes, they were.
1985.
You're
You know what I
joining
mean? It's
Van
like,
Halen, brother. Come on.
yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So that, and Keith Campbell, you're right. Ed Loeffler, he was apparently the best manager they ever had. Ed Loeffler looked out for
Agreed.
all of them equally.
Absolutely.
And not even though he was Sammy's manager, apparently
That's what this person in this interview said,
Yeah.
that Ed made them a lot of money and even made David Lee Roth
lost money.
more.
Yeah.
And when the name Noel Monk was mentioned, this person said that he was a crook. He ripped everyone off, and that was it on that. Yeah.
I've listened to the Dave and Dave podcast twice so far. I will probably listen to it a half dozen times. Look, Tony and I were talking. I know you guys know this, but I'll just state the obvious. If you haven't heard it, there are so many little details and things that are like revealed and like end result of stories that have been talked about. I lost count.
Yeah.
I literally lost count after like 2 dozen. I stopped counting.
Dude, goddamn! If you love Van Halen,
yeah,
that's a great, I don't know Dave and Dave over there, but hats off, brother. I wish you did.
Excellent,
absolutely.
well, very well done. Interview.
Connected
It's
a
sort
lot
of an un-interview. It's great. It's just great. It's very well.
Yeah, we'll talk about a lot of the details. You heard this too, Johnny, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I listened to it. You told me about it because I think it came out that day when you told me, right?
Yeah. So,
the next day I listened to it. It's full of stuff. I mean, just you got to wonder who this person was. Somebody will know somebody else in that camp will know who it was. You know
Who
what I mean?
was exactly?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
we won't know. But yeah, I mean,
But
stuff
I
like
kind of feel compelled to say it's not
Burgess,
salacious.
welcome.
It's not salacious. It's not.
yeah,
They're not disrespecting anyone
no,
in the way that this is presented. It's very tasteful. It's very well done, and it shows a
not
lot of
dirty
respect
laundry.
for the band and for Edward Van Halen. Absolutely.
It really does
There-
connect a lot of dots over the last 20 years that if we had any questions about, it's like it touches on the
Yeah.
whole spectrum of it, even up to the
After,
little kitchen sink thing. It discusses
yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder though, like in 2004, if Roth had gone on the road with them, could that have just imploded the band forever, and we would never have gotten anything else after that with Roth and the band? Because when he came in 07, Eddie was cleaned up.
but
they
he had
been-
Wolf.
right. But would there have been anything to bring them back again, or would that have really done it? Would instead of Sammy being the guy not talking to anybody, would have been Roth?
I think
So
Dave would
maybe
have.
it's a good idea Sammy went 04.
I think Dave would have always come back because
Yeah.
they knew each other. Like Charles, from high school, it was more of a
They're-
family. And even in one of those
They
other
are
Right.
family.
it was a family thing
Period.
with Dave
Yes.
as opposed to Sammy, who was kind of an outsider. And you know what? I don't know if it was in the Ted Templeman book, but it was kind of almost like Ted expected them to just get back together too. Oh, they're having a fight. They'll just 8 months from now, they'll get back together.
Right.
But then Sammy stepped in, and apparently Sammy, then I think Ted was like concerned. It's like, oh man, this is not gonna. They're in love with the new woman now. You know what I mean? On there, and this is not good. And I guess Sammy knew that hey, this is the position that he was in at that point. That was
Didn't Greg Renoff tell us this story? I feel like
I
he
think
said.
he did.
I feel like
Yeah,
he talked about that with.
Well, he
Ted
wrote the book.
Templeman.
He wrote the book. So.
He did write the book.
So it kind of all fits together there. But when you put this Goldthroat guy, what he had to say with the Rolling Stone article with Eddie and this other guy, at the end of it, you could tell that Eddie wanted to wrap up Van Halen, the loose ends, and that kitchen tour, because he said he was tired of doing this stuff with Dave, and I don't want to fight with anybody anymore. And he was looking forward to doing. He said music with Bryan Adams. He wanted to do music with him singing it. He wanted to do, or he was Keanu Reeves, something for one of the not the Matrix, the John Wick films. And what was the other movie? The Top Gun theme. Hans Zimmer wanted him to do the theme for the new Top Gun. So he had those three things, and he was looking forward to doing that kind of stuff. I guess maybe movie music and stuff like that he wanted to do, and then the thing with Bryan Adams, whatever. But he was looking forward to kind of, I think, putting a bow on Van Halen, wrapping it up with the kitchen sink and everybody in on it. And then, if you've noticed, Gary Sharon said in the last couple of weeks that he didn't know what Eddie was talking about. See, Gary reconnected with Eddie about 5 or 6 years ago, and just on his own, because they never had a bad falling out. You know what I mean? And Eddie always had no problem with him. So Gary called him up apparently one day, and then they started talking, and I guess even hanging out. But it came to the point where when that came up, Gary had said something to like, hey, if you ever need a singer, and Eddie did say something like, yeah, you never know. He leaned over and said, you never know. And he goes, now I know what he meant by that, because the kitchen sink tour, I guess he probably would have obviously been invited on that too. And he said, that's what I think he was getting at. You know what I mean?
Let me stop you right there, John. There's a fine line. Now, in this podcast, they say now they were worried about, is Sam and Mike a package deal? I'm sure everybody, and before that, they also say that the Newstead thing was simply one phone call, and it happened early 2021, and it was simply just as a backup, because they weren't sure that Mike was going to say, well, I'm not coming unless Sam's coming. And if Dave had a problem with that, then they're back to square one and they don't have anything. So it was one call and that was it. And he just spoke about it later, and we've all wonderfully talked about it ever since.
And it's weird because apparently Dave didn't have a problem with Sammy doing the whole thing too, but he just wouldn't appear on stage with him at the same time. That was
Well,
it. It's just
they
like,
they do say that in 2019 they were in dress rehearsals.
and they rented.
They were in dress rehearsals for a reunion, and all that was mentioned was the four original.
Wow.
Michael Anthony, the four original in 20 when Ed had his motorcycle accident.
And it all
And you
came to
know
a
what
screeching
happened, right?
halt.
Mhm.
But yeah, but I'm sure that there's stuff that's not mentioned. You know, were Sam and Mike a package deal? Was Sam coming? Was there more? Gary too, and Wolf. You know, so,
Yeah, it's hey, listen, we all know, what could have been or whatever like that, but it's just amazing that, I don't think it would have been a big tour anyway. Probably would have been just a handful of dates because obviously Eddie was ill. We know that wasn't going to change at all if he made it through this tour. It was probably going to be a handful, Yankee Stadium and places like that, just, a couple. But they did say the Foo Fighters were not one of the bands
that's
on
right.
the
Yeah.
I
list.
think they said 30 some odd shows was what the initial thought
Was it that many? I didn't even think it was that many. Wow.
39, I believe, is the number I remember, but
Yeah,
I
I
could be
forget.
off by one or two.
Wow. So that was
Yeah, this was a pretty big deal. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let me say this too. Dave and Dave, it was a wonderful podcast.
Yes.
Hats off again. I highly recommend it. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a
You
good
know
one.
where to find it. A
Yeah,
lot of you
great.
know about it already, but if you don't, wow. Yeah. And I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of you have read the Rolling Stone already.
A friend of mine is watching the show, Ken, and he just messaged me right now. He says it's kind of interesting that Ed was getting his Steinberger guitars redone, recalibrated. Remember by what's his name, Babbitt's, Jeff Babbitt's, and now you think about it and saying, "Well, this is kind of interesting." You know
Wow.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I never thought of that. That's a good one,
I
Ken.
never did either.
Wow, yeah.
Good point. That was probably for that tour. If they did Summer Nights, he was going to use that guitar on there. That's an excellent point, Ken.
Yeah.
Good job.
Man.
Ken
Nice.
from North
Very
Carolina on
cool,
there.
Ken. Not
Right
bad.
on.
Not bad, dude.
Yeah, excellent. That's a great point. So, yeah, I mean, it's just
Wait,
amazing.
John, is Ken Goldthroat?
Ken, are you Goldthroat?
He sounds like he knows something.
He's gold member.
Gold member.
Yeah, but there's just so many other things in that the Goldthroat thing. It's just mind blowing in there. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of other little points that they made in there. So
There's a lot of it. Go listen to it. Yeah.
I'm hoping that they dig up some, obviously the easiest thing would be, we've mentioned it before, is to remaster the first 6 albums and then remaster the Hagar albums. Obviously they had a box set sitting on a shelf of the first ones, right? A box set that they didn't sign off on, and, but that would be easy to do. Just remaster all their albums and stuff like that, get them out there. And then, but I would love for them to, find some stuff and finish some music, that they could release. You know what I mean? There's got to be something in there,
Go through the vault.
Yeah, exactly.
They could start with tape 1, release it, tape whatever it is,
Yeah.
Could be far
Exactly.
It's there, guys. It's there. There's tons of stuff. Dave's got I think there's even an excerpt in there. He has a country album that he actually has completed. He's got it stored away. He doesn't want to put it out because he doesn't think that the public would really want to have that big an interest in him doing a country album.
Yeah, they mentioned that.
I would love to have a country album from Dave. They say it's fantastic. I'd love to hear it. It's out there. Well, it's not out there. It could be out there.
Another thing we got to mention is Keith just brought it up down here. Don't forget that Sunset Sound actually finally got Don Landy and Ted, and
Yeah.
they're going to speak to them. That is going to be prime.
No shit.
I think
Yes.
it's already happened. It just
Big time
hadn't aired
deal.
yet.
Right on, bro.
Yeah, I don't know if it happened
No
yet. I know they
shit.
said they contacted. I don't know if it happened yet. If they're still.
Somebody said they were seen going in Sunset Sound.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's
then,
like in the past week. Yeah.
Wow.
then this should be epic, Holly.
Yeah.
You're right. This should be completely epic. That's going to be prime time stuff. That's everybody's going to love to hear that. You know.
When
Ossin's gonna have up a new video in like a couple weeks, probably.
when you listen to this podcast that we're talking about, and it's hard to gather, like, wow, you keep saying
Hey,
that,
Jerry, like
but then you start questioning that this can't be real. This is BS. This is not. But then they start saying stuff that they wouldn't, like when they say that there was a meeting place halfway between Dave and Ed's place,
Exactly.
halfway
The bagels-
between
the bagel shop.
5150 and Pasadena in Burbank, called Western Bagel, right?
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
exactly where it is.
Yeah. And they used to meet there
They meet there,
when
yep.
neither wanted to,
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
right?
so it makes you the person we have our guesses of who it might be. I don't want to say my guess out loud.
Or on the air.
Yeah. But yeah, it does sound like.
Yeah, we don't want to get anybody fired.
No.
Yeah.
Or get yourself
but
sued.
it does sound.
Sued.
It does sound real. Like, holy.
Oh yeah.
Crap.
Yeah. It was great. Hey,
It paints Dave in just a slightly different light. It gives you kind of
it humanizes him.
version of Dave, and it makes you, when you hear it, you start saying, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
He takes a lot of bad press that he really doesn't deserve.
You know, I'm going on record right now. I'm going on record right now and saying I'm gonna be Gold Throat for Halloween.
All right, there you go. All right.
Nice.
All right.
Nice, man.
All right. Charles, to your point, you know what? The thing that really struck me in there too is they said that Dave Eddie was sick. I mean, dying of cancer, and Dave just never bothered. I mean, never, didn't really. I don't think he had much contact with him or anything like that, because every time Eddie with the cancer would pop up, even Valerie Bernelli said it in her book that they would always take care of it, and Ed would be okay. Oh, it was okay. She said it in the audio book. Listen. She's like, but this time it wasn't going to be okay. You know what I mean? And they said Dave didn't until 72 hours before Eddie's death. Yeah. Dave, that's when it finally hit Dave.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess said, oh my God, he's going to die. He's not going to make it.
He was in denial about that because he just kept thinking Eddie's been bouncing back. He's going to continue to bounce back because he's Edward frickin' Van Halen.
Yeah.
And that,
Hey, Lenny Lou, how you doing?
Lenny,
nice
it's good to see you, sweetheart, and Mary.
Right on.
You guys.
Yeah. So that was like, apparently it really hit him like a ton of bricks 72 hours before he died. And, but obviously it was too late then.
They say that since Dave has been 38 years old, that he's been dealing with major physical issues.
Yeah.
And I believe it because he beat the hell out of himself for a couple of decades, Yeah. That's what he did. His acrobatics on stage were
broken his own nose.
They did go as far as to say that he cannot walk on a stage now.
And he's got mobility issues.
And
which is
for
the last thing I expected
years, there is a medical actual reason why he couldn't in recent years control his voice.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he wore a scarf for a while. Does that mean surgery?
Yeah, that's right.
And since
in the
2000,
2012,
yeah,
the Cigar,
Yeah.
right?
yeah. Well, in 2004, well, between 2004 and 2007, by 2007, he had lost his ability to almost perform. There was a major chunk of time right there. And then he gained part of it back to where he could actually perform. And that's why he was taking a major hiatus, I believe, based on what I'm hearing. But I'm
Well,
going to keep hearing more,
we wish him well. I hope he's in good health in
Absolutely.
his retirement.
Absolutely.
The thing I notice about Dave in just the past couple of years
Nice,
is
Lenny Lou.
is his weight loss.
Yeah. They actually said
he's lost
for
a
him to
lot of
come and
weight.
perform again, he's going to need to put some weight on.
He doesn't look fit. He looks thin. He looks like when I just got out of the hospital,
Yeah.
John, didn't you and I talk about this on a previous show? But Dave left a cryptic message once where he was talking about Eddie passing, and he said, I thought I would go first.
Yeah,
I remember that kind of hit me like,
I remember that.
Was that a slip up?
Yeah, what is going on here? Right.
In that podcast, it did say that Dave puts out the cartoon character out there full blast and top down 100%, but the private Dave is very private. He doesn't put anything about himself out there at all. Yeah,
it's crazy. It's funny because on that Rolling Stone article, when you read both of these articles, it really informs you a lot about just the inner workings and when Eddie went back at that guy when he started emailing him and basically saying about Dave, some of the things that Eddie says in there are pretty funny. It's like like basically like, our singer sucks. Well, I can't help it that our singer can't say sucks. It's like, I'm looking at it right now trying to find exactly what he said, but I remember I was laughing about that. He's like, I can't help it if our singer sucks. It was like just the kind of relationship that those two had. You know what I mean? It was just like it's crazy.
Like childhood buddies that grew up together.
And another thing that I noticed is that Alex seems to really have a desire to get out and play some drums.
It does.
That's the other impression I got, that he hasn't been, I think I made a comment a couple of months ago about it, that he may not have spent an hour behind a drum kit since Eddie's passing.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to rethink that.
Yeah.
It sounds to me, from what I'm hearing, that he wants to get out and do something,
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And you know what? Apparently Eddie Trunk is saying that this thing was supposed to happen again now. It's on again, the talks, but they're saying that David Lee Roth is holding it up now. I heard this the other day.
Yeah.
Dave's holding it up.
Somehow I just think that's piggybacking off of.
Yeah.
I think listen to the I think it explains a lot. A lot of the missing pieces, a lot of the stuff that we wonder in Van Halen history and wonder how, but like John said earlier in the week, a lot of the stuff that was his guess anyway on this, and he had no idea about this, but
Gary Sharon said he wasn't contacted by anybody, though. He did say it the other day. He goes, I haven't been contacted by anybody. He goes, just to let everybody know, But here's the thing that I was laughing about that Eddie said, because the guy was basically saying what I'm saying now. I was like, why didn't they just come out and say this stuff? You know what I mean? Like set the air years ago, clear. And he says, I asked myself the same questions, and there are actually a few reasons. For one, whenever we do interviews, we really can't tell the whole truth, because if I said in an interview what I have to say, what I have said to you, certain people would get pissed. And since the band at least appears from the outside to be working together, it wouldn't do much good to say, I think our lead singer sucks and is a complete mental case prima donna.
That's awesome.
I thought that was great.
There you go, man.
But I don't know. But you know what? The bottom line in this whole thing is Eddie's gone. It's over. Even this thing that they're doing with Alex, I think they should do like a Freddie Mercury deal or like the Foo Fighters. Like somebody's pointing at that. In 2 months, they put together 2 shows, one in London and one in LA.
Taylor Hawkins tribute.
Right. In 2 months, they put it together, and they could obviously do the same thing for Eddie Van Halen. He was huge. I mean, a huge superstar, and they should just do the same type of thing. Just do 2 huge concerts in different places at the same time. You'd get musicians from every genre out to do that. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't want it to just be a bunch of metal guitarists. You know what I mean?
How many guitar players do you think they should have?
What's that?
How many guitar players total do you think they should have?
I don't even care about that. I want to see people doing their own interpretations of the music. Have Yo-Yo Ma come out there on a cello and play Eruption. I want to see. I don't want Kirk Hammett, and I don't want that just locked into the heavy metal.
The cello will have to be painted. So will they be hiring Neil and Johnny to make all these instruments for this special?
Actually, they should use Johnny B's headstock for the stop sign guitar. That's the cello right there.
That would be really cool.
You have to stripe a cello for Yo-Yo Ma. But I do believe that it should be it shouldn't just be limited to a heavy metal genre, because Eddie was known by people, like somebody said, you go into the Philippines somewhere and Jump is playing in a taxi on the radio there. You know what I mean?
Seen the guy that
Leo,
what's up? Ukulele, but he'll do like Van Halen covers or whatever.
Yeah, John, I think you're right. Like if you wrap up,
welcome.
If the promoters of something like this think outside the box, you bring in somebody like a Brad Paisley and bring in a John Mayer and stuff. Way outside of the box. Those guys can do their own twist on a Van Halen song and make it universal.
You got it. Exactly. So that everybody's going to want to watch that at home, because it's just like, just include all different genres of music, jazz, rock, country, every pop, everybody, put it all in there. And because you know what, not only was he a great guitarist, we know that he just changed the guitar. Obviously that there's an element of that to be brought into this too. But I think you also can't forget, you look at Van Halen's greatest hits and, and it's mind blowing. Like most bands have 3 hits and then they put out a greatest hits album, 3 songs that everybody would know. And then they put out a greatest hits album. Their greatest hits album, legitimately a double album. Most of those songs, everybody knows, you know what I mean? It's like, it's like they're one of those bands like that they can, legitimately has that many hits. So I really think that if they want to do it right, they have to. Irving Azoff, he's a smart guy. I think he should be behind it, but they should be doing something like I wouldn't do a touring thing like that. I don't know. I would just do a big, just monster blowout show and just have people coming up there, crazy combinations of people on the stage together, singers with the members of Van Halen, just like the members of Queen were up there, just get up there and just
put Stevie Wonder and Taylor Swift together.
Yeah,
and let them
exactly.
do it, I mean, honestly, something like that. The thing is,
drums,
I think the thing that's those guys are probably frustrated is I'll bet you the stuff we're talking about, they're all talking about behind the scenes. I bet you this goes back to Jason Newsted releasing the information about this that they didn't want out. I bet you all these things are being talked about.
Yeah, I'm sure. Eddie Trunk may have something about Roth, but once the Foo Fighters, once this gets out there, they'll do something, I think.
Well, they could easily screw this up too. So I hope they don't. That's why you need a guy like Irving Azoff to kind of say, you have to make this like we're talking right here. It's just it's got to be wide open. This thing can't be just metal guitar players like Andy Timmons playing guitar. Who the hell is Andy Timmons? You know what I mean? No offense, but my mom doesn't know Andy Timmons, but she knows Stevie Wonder. You know what I mean? It's like you want to get everybody watching this and celebrating this guy's life. But I like Keith Campbell's idea.
That's an interesting take,
Rose
John.
Bowl, one show. The Rose Bowl.
That is an interesting take on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I really do think it's got to be like the Freddie Mercury one should be like the blueprint for it, the template like that. Just, bring everybody in there like that and have them playing up with the band, doing Van Halen songs. Also have some guitar players and stuff like that, up there too. Some notable guitar players, you know what I mean? Absolutely have to. Or, or a segment of the show has got to be something like that, But
I like your style, Christopher. Right there, brother.
But I like Keith's idea. Do it at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. One show, just a huge monster show. That would be freaking awesome.
That would be excellent.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent.
But we'll see. I don't think Irving Azoff watches the show here, so I don't know if he's gonna hear us.
Yeah.
Now that Johnny B's been on, I think we got him.
That's right.
Yeah,
we're setting the bar.
I mean, you never know. How about when Pete Thorne did his interview show with Phil X, and Phil X goes, "Man, if I have time, I listen to you. I watch your show every week. I'm just not gonna come.
I'm gonna be right back, guys. I'm gonna grab some tea. I'll be right back."
Well, you might be right, Tom, because when they did that real show, it's just like, it was kind of a coincidence, but a lot of those people that were on there, we've had them all on here. You know what I mean? So it's like, I almost think some grunt, the producer said, go on YouTube.
A junior intern.
They said, right, an intern. Go find out some information.
They said, find it for me. Find who's talking about this. Watch the information, then come back to me on Friday and tell me what we need to do.
Because it was like I think it was like 5 of those guys that were on there. We all had them on
100%, dude. I had the same thought.
So
I would not be surprised. You're so right on, man.
Yeah,
we've got a lot of great people on this.
Yeah,
on our show.
I keep coming back here to watch stuff because there's great stuff to see.
Yeah,
you're making it great tonight. So
that's right.
Yeah, you definitely are, Johnny.
That's not what I meant, but I wasn't going for that.
No, I wish we could have had you on. I wish we would have thought ahead, like that you would have done it back then, because we were probably like, I don't know if he hasn't been on any other shows. I don't know if he'll do our show or anything.
I mean, thing is, I don't want to intrude on people. I don't want to go like, hey man, can I be on your show? And
no, man.
Wait until somebody knocks on the door, and yeah, sure. Tony and I've been talking for a little while, and you say like, hey man, I want you on the show. I'm like, yeah, sure.
Well, we're gonna
a couple weeks go by.
Hey, all you had to do was ask, right?
Well, we're gonna have to do another Frankenstein show with you and Chris Gill, and just load it up there and just sit back and watch you guys, for 2 hours, just throw it out there. You know what I mean?
Well, it is kind of funny that you've given us over 2.5 hours tonight so far of your time, but if people go back and look at the amount of time your videos encompass, we've barely scratched the surface tonight with you.
The reason why I want to do some live stuff like this too is because there's when I do a video, it's like a package. So I'm cutting things off, right? It's like, oh no, this won't fit. I'll wait and talk about that. It might be 2 years before I do a video where I talk about this little chunk of thing.
Right.
So a live thing is, you can kind of go on a tangent here, there, and the other place. It's a conversation that just, drifts here and there.
Yeah, so that's John Conklin.
It's a way to.
We know all about that, Johnny. Of course, we know
all
about
that.
But yeah, it's a way
no, all of us do. All of us do.
Hey, but seriously, Johnny, this is your first live cast on another channel. Thank you for choosing Halenville to do this.
We're honored, man.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize that, Johnny.
Very cool.
Watch this show, so when you reach out to me, it's like, wow, okay, this is cool. I'm going to be part of something really great, and. Like I said before, you put out good content. You're not going to sit and listen to what you had for dinner for 4 hours.
Right.
I don't want to know that.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you for saying that, dude.
Not an hour.
Dude, everybody here and everybody in the chat loves all of your videos, and we've watched them for years, dude.
It's benchmark stuff for us on YouTube, man. It's just
Johnny, I've taken a lot of inspiration and a lot of detail and a lot of notes off of your videos to become a better guitar painter and builder. And a matter of fact, a couple of guys on this show tonight have living proof of that. So you have channeled your knowledge through me, and I'm putting that out there to other people. Tony and Charles have guitars. Charles is getting another one soon. Tony's getting another one soon, and all this stuff. And I give credit where credit's due, and I've thanked you from day one of being on this program.
Absolutely.
I'm always stunned to hear stuff like that. Like it blows my mind. Like you put stuff out, but somehow you don't think anybody really pays attention, and then when they do, it's like, wow, okay, I didn't realize that I was.
Again, that's the nature of being an artist, though. Yeah, I do the same thing. Like, you have no idea how much of an impact you've left on other people.
Your videos are as much Van Halen gold as anything we've talked about.
True.
They're like they're historical documents.
They are, dude.
I think it's important because I've had these questions for 30 plus years. And that was the whole point when I went into this project. I didn't want to put the cart before the horse. How many people have you seen decide they want to build a Frankie or any other kind of Van Halen guitar half-assed because they're so impatient, right? Oh, I just want to get it done. And then they go, well, it's not perfect, but I'm going to try it again.
You did so much research there.
I'm going to try it again. So before I started, I was like, well, there's no point. Like this one here, that's the first one I did in 06 without the internet. And I thought, no, okay, this time I'm going to do research. And if I don't know how to do something or how to replicate it or where to get the part, I stop. And that's where I do research on top of research until I found it. And now we go to the next step. And if people are patient enough to follow along with me, then eventually
I've done it. I've done it. You're the gold throat of YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah. And we'll be calling you back, Johnny.
Yeah,
we will.
For sure.
Definitely.
Guitars are one of my favorite things to talk about, and you'll never shut me up. So
I
tell people at work, they bring it up, like, oh, you build guitars. I went, you know what? If you don't want to be bored for the next hour, like, we'll just change the subject because like a spring, it's just going to keep going and spinning, and it's a great subject, Yeah. We all love it.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And he gave us joy. He gave us something interesting. His playing, 5150, the studio. How many musicians had a place to put their brain, not just like, oh, here are my Les Pauls or here's a tape deck. Like, it was his place to just do what he wanted to do. And we were more than willing to sit and listen to whatever he created out of there. And I think that involved. I don't care if they release 4 hours of him playing the cello. I want to hear that.
Same here. Yeah, exactly.
No, it's funny. You touch on something really interesting. With the advent of Pro Tools, there's a whole new generation of people that don't know what it's like to go to a studio. That everybody records at home now. So the idea of having your own home studio kind of carries less weight than it did in 1980. Whereas when 5150 was being constructed, that was big news. Wait a minute, he built a studio at his house and he's going to record albums there?
It wasn't just part of the house; it was a separate building.
Yeah. But that was mind blowing.
Yeah, I love racquetball courts. I just love them.
Right. Yeah, they play really tough games of racquetball in there.
My wife doesn't want to have to hear racquetball. Yeah,
that's why it's got to be soundproof. That's why I tell the building inspector.
You know how many thousands of lunatics have driven up that driveway just to look at that gate or try to get it, because they know.
I think I'd be hiring a retired special forces guy or something,
It's like mythology. That place is like, 5150. It's just like, That's why, when he passed away, it was like, oh my God, what's going to happen to the place? And when you find out that Wolfgang's going to move there and take over the place, and you feel like, oh, good, thank God, it's gonna live on. He said he's gonna stay there forever and feel.
We have the studio there. Makes sense. Yeah.
So that's awesome.
It was crazy to talk to Chris Gill and not ask him 8 billion questions about every inch of 5150. Sure. How many times he was in there with it. It's like he posted something once, and I comment. I said, it boggles the mind what you've seen. Like, we only see snapshots and pictures and stuff.
Right.
You lived it and walked in there. You know what the place smells like. You know what the floor sounds like if you walk on it or a door or something. Like, it's just stuff that we can only dream and imagine about.
My favorite thing, and I think knowing Wolfgang's personality, he'll keep it this way, is even when they quote upgraded 5150 compared to other studios of multi-millionaires that have really made it still looks like a shithole compared to modern studio. But it was like a well-worn pair of shoes. It was comfortable for them. And here's the more important thing that any good audio engineer will tell you, and any really good one if you talk to them. If you know those speakers, they're like the old NS10s. If you know those speakers, it doesn't matter if they sound bad. Your ears are used to them. You know them. So they obviously knew that gear, so that made sense. I always thought it was funny because,
Funny that you say that, because when we had Mike Fraser on, I asked Mike, I said, what was a 5150 like? You know what I mean? And he said it had a vibe to it. It had a definite vibe to it. It was like a B, like a B or a C size studio in a big complex. It was a smaller one, a smaller room, but he said it had a definite vibe to it. And it's funny you say that, because he mixes on NS10s, Mike Fraser. So Balance is probably mixed at record.
A lot of people mix on NS10s.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I think's important to mention, though, what you said a moment ago, John, the fact that Wolf's in there and he's taken over
it's awesome.
But that pretty much ensures that it's his working place, living place, etc. Now he's getting married, so it's private, and it pretty much ensures we won't see anything out of there now. Had he moved and it sat empty or whatever, or sold, or maybe you'd see something inside or more of that. But now the fact that that's his life, now you ain't gonna see nothing, I think.
That's, listen, I'm happy just knowing the place is a working, living, breathing recording studio, and then he's going to use it. You know what I mean? It should make us all feel good that it's.
I think it's poetic justice that Wolfgang's getting married and moving into 5150. Yep. How freaking Van Halen is that? That's awesome.
He'll show us a lot of it along the way.
Into a racket court. How sad would
that be? Right. That's right.
Yes.
Right.
We'll see it.
You might see a lot more of it if he's literally there all the time.
Yeah, Tony, you never know. It could very well turn out the opposite. I mean, I'm hopeful that now the fact that this is his house in his backyard, this studio right there, maybe he'll have one of those nights where he can't sleep, and he'll say, "I'm going to go through some tapes," and just walk over. I mean, who knows?
Bake some tapes.
You're right.
Yeah. Well,
but it's not going to be a chore to actually go through all the tapes that he, has lamented on for the last 2 years, saying that, that's an undertaking he wasn't looking forward to doing. But now, if it's a minute away, right out the back door, who knows? We might get lucky.
I don't think he'll approach it like you said as an undertaking. He'll want to go out there if he's So maybe. I
can only hope so, but I mean, and hopefully, I know. I would love to do. Holly said, do a show on the layout of 5150. That would be cool. Right? To really do like a,
Has someone like laid it out, like AutoCAD'd it?
Yeah, no, I don't know about that, but I mean, it's like I try to map out on where things are, and then I have a fairly decent idea of how it is.
Johnny, this sounds like a project for you because you're good at mixing and matching photos. You can line up. This photo was this corner, and then this photo had this corner. And
you're going to get 97% of it. You are.
A handful of photos that are out there. I've actually do that, okay, where does this go from here? And that video that came out, we saw a staircase that,
when he walked up the stairs,
like, where is it? Because we don't see, the camera doesn't go to it and then out. It's just these at the top and they go by. And then, the next clip might not be attached to that. It could have been at the beginning of that. So, and the photos that we've seen are sometimes decades apart. So some parts could be completely different.
Exactly. I do know the original studio layout of the recording, the main room outside the control room. It's still there now. It's still the same main room. is like, I think I have the dimensions somewhere. It's like 17 by 35. I do know that. It's 17 feet wide by 35 feet long. That's the main room. And then they knocked the wall out and put the drum room on after that, where the tape storage is in the back. And then there's a garage, I think, on the back end, the other end. And we know there's where they had the video games and all that, like the lounge.
Is that how it still is?
On the one end, and then there's a kitchen.
Yep.
And then a little the workbench area, and I guess the staircase upstairs to the storage where all the guitars and everything else is in that area, I believe. But I'm not sure. But we'd love to find that out for sure, how it's all laid out. You know what I mean? That would be pretty cool.
Just get a camera to go in the door. No editing, just walk.
Yeah.
No, just walk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a few pictures from when I was up on Mulholland, and we went down a little private road on the side and climbed in the bushes down on the back, and we took some shots down onto
really.
If you can get high enough res video and go slowly and just go through 5150, so you literally see it all, but in video form. If you know someone who does video modeling, that's what they do with it. You literally throw it in a 3D model and then throw on some glasses and walk around in there.
John,
Tommy, we got to get those contacts that are in the new Batman movie that came out just a couple months ago, where he puts in contacts and video records everything.
Yeah, that's coming, man, for you sooner than you think.
I'll tell you what, fly with a camera, just
right.
Elon Musk neural implants.
Go on Google Earth, you can get some cool shots of it. How it gives you a good idea.
It's not going to be a video screen though, because the Elon Musk one, it just implants into your brain, so your eyes will see like you normally see, but you can do it like an overlay. But he said it's going to mess people up at first, because this overlay is not an image like I'm looking at the screen here. It's like nothing you've ever seen. You're seeing it out of your own eyes, but the information is there.
We'll be long dead.
We'll be long dead.
I don't know, man. It could be
maybe.
That's a whole nother conversation. But I mean, depending what books you've read and who you believe. And, if you read Kurzweil's book, it's it's about this thick, but it's interesting. And he has certain very interesting beliefs and wants to bring his father back, and this is the reason he's doing it. And so it's AI, but it also has to do with genetics and recreating, consciousness and this kind of stuff. So it's interesting. So
Westworld.
John vacation very close down the canyon, right, John?
What I'll say it again.
On your West Coast vacation?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's it. It was nice.
You were right beside 50.
John, I knew exactly where you were shooting from too.
I was like 1,600 feet away. Like I was a couple.
John sends images, and it's just like ivy and all. I'm in the bushes at 5150.
No. My wife would not let me do that kind of stuff. She's like, I just drove up the driveway once, but
Sir, why do you have these roll-up restaurant mats in your trunk? I was gonna climb over the gate at 5150.
No, if you actually watch the entire John video, he points the camera at himself, and it's like that scene in Blair Witch Project where he's got snot running down his nose, and he's like, I've never been so scared.
It might have barbed wire.
Luckily, my wife is completely normal, and she's like, "You're a freaking lunatic." I mean, we're on Ventura Boulevard, and I'm like, "Oh, there's the vape shop Eddie used to go to." She's like, "Get out of my car." It's like
I've been told to exit a female companion's car for the same kind of offense.
That's the clue. You got to marry a normal husband or wife. You know what I mean? And for all you women out there who are Van Halen nuts, you got to marry like somebody who's normal.
Who's
brings
not
it
into it at all.
Brings you back down to earth. Yeah, exactly.
Well, then again, you have something else to talk about for a portion of your life. If this is your girlfriend, wife, partner, whoever, whatever, hot husband. But you don't want to talk about Van Halen all the time. But then that way, when you're not with them, you can just talk about Van Halen all the rest.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
I apologize to
use
my
that
wife
to your
all the
advantage.
time.
Dude.
I'm going to say this once more, or I'm going to say something new. but I have to say it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's
Right?
how you know she loves you, though, because
Oh,
she just deals with it over and over. You know,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
yeah.
The big
sure.
mistake I make is always, no matter what point she's trying to make or whatever she's referencing, I'll always go, yeah, exactly. It's like that one line, that song lyric from 1984, and it's
You know
always
you're a
bring
Van
it back.
Halen
Yeah,
fan. And
exactly.
all your references are
Yeah.
Van Halen.
I totally agree with you, honey. It's just like the stripes on the Frankie.
Don't even joke about bringing a gun to the airport, because Eddie did that once. Let me tell you a story about it.
Yeah. Let me tell you how close I am to my mechanic.
Yeah, right.
Well, my mechanic's called Claudio, but it's a different last name, different guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. But anyway, but Johnny, thank you for coming on here. We're gonna be hitting you up when we do these crazy deep dives on these shows on guitar stuff.
And if we're
Because
getting something wrong, and if you happen to be watching and see it, let us know so we can just bring you in here and you can correct us.
no,
Yeah,
definitely.
dude.
I want to get Chris Gill and I want to get you on here. I want to just I want to talk, because Tony always pointed it out. I never really thought of it that way until he pointed it out, that these really are historical documents. If if YouTube saves these somewhere, and then 100 years from now somebody could be going through this stuff and find some information on it. Like when Rob Johnson and those guys were on. Remember the 5150 guitar where we did a show on the 5150, and everybody always thought there were 6 neck bolts. There were like 2 under the plate of the guitar, and that night it was just like Chris Hubbard was like, "Rob, where's that picture?" And Rob was like, "Oh my god, yeah, I pulled that picture out." And sure enough, there's only 4. Everybody always thought there was 6 under that, and that guitar, we know there's only 4. I mean, lunatics like us, it's a big deal for it, but it is. You need lunatics like us. You know what I mean?
That's right. Those things straight, because, like you say, things are going to get exaggerated. Because I really do believe, like 100 years from now, people are still going to be interested in his music and who he was. Yes. And if it's so exaggerated, the truth is going to be gone. It's going to be like he's a cartoon character.
Yeah.
And so it's nice that we have this kind of stuff that we can share with everybody, because it's not like I really enjoy putting stuff out and then getting that feedback from people. Because it makes it it fills in the holes and the gaps, and it makes you think a little bit more. And then down the road, it's a place for me to research and come back with another video and start the ball.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And keep exploring the basement jams, because that's one of my favorite things. For everybody out there your video hits are going to blow up tonight, because all the people in our chat are going to go watch your videos. Watch them till the very end.
The build videos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got
for sure.
45 minutes that I digitized that are just like silly, stupid songs and prank phone calls.
It's so funny though. Oh my god, it's such good stuff.
I've gone back and watched yours more than a couple of times.
Nice.
Dude.
I like hearing that when people say, "Man, I've watched that like 4 times." I'm like, wow, that's cool.
Of course. Yeah. Dude, thank you so much, man, for hanging out tonight.
Thanks,
man.
Johnny.
Very
cool, dude. Very cool.
Thank you.
Man, very cool.
Can't wait to have you back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Johnny.
His links are down below in the description. If you're not subscribed to Johnny B Guitars on YouTube, you probably are already. But if you're not, the link is down below. So click it real quick and subscribe and treat yourself. And take your time. Some really cool stuff, some really historical stuff on his channel. Absolutely is. And that's
no stone left unturned. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Well, people started saying, "Don't be afraid to nerd out too much," and it's like, you shouldn't have told me that.
well, there's you're probably gonna also if you haven't already, get this community that like there's a community that watches ASMR videos. There's a community that just wants to see people either build or repair things. They might not even know anything about guitars, but they love to see the smallest details because they get some sort of like dopamine
Yeah.
rush apparently,
Sure.
that they get a small percentage of what you're feeling when you're actually building it, because nothing gives you that feeling than when you build it with your own hands. Nothing can mimic that, but you get a small percentage by watching other people do it, you know.
I get people that comment that exact same thing. And one guy said, man, honestly, I put your video on because it was 45 minutes long and I just wanted to go to sleep, but it was so damn interesting. I have to watch it again today.
Yes.
That's the highest compliment you can
Yeah.
get.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
It's so
There
funny
you
because
go.
if anybody ever wonders, like when you hear about a news story and it takes some crimes committed and then it takes a prosecution 3 years to put the case together for it to go to trial, and all these people sitting at home are like, why the hell does it take so long for a case to be built on that? Watch your videos, man. The amount of research you put into these things is not stuff that you just come up with overnight. I mean, you diligent research.
And
So,
I've redone, like I was in a couple of videos, I was like halfway through the process of doing it, and then a photo comes out of nowhere, and I'm like,
Stop the presses.
So you can't just pop it in. It's like, okay, this rewrites everything. I don't have to explain all this other stuff. Here's the photo. So then I start from the beginning. That happened with the Bo Shannon photos when they came out of the bare body Frankie. And I was halfway through the video, and I had that one blurry bare body photo that had been out for like years, right? I'm trying to point to different things, and then all of a sudden these amazing photos come out. It's like, but good timing, you know? I mean, I probably taken the video down and then pop the other one up. But
Excellent.
So wait,
next level.
That's right.
I have a question real quick. Johnny, have you ever worked in like consulting for authentication for, you know, any type of object related to finished materials, painted objects, that kind of stuff? Because if you haven't, you should probably look into it if you're interested, because you'd be phenomenal at that. You know, there's a lot of fraud, like vintage furniture, that kind of stuff. And if you can authenticate that this finish just doesn't look right, or this paint is, or for guitars, you can pick out a refinish, then, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's, you know, part of it is being interested in it. If I'm not interested in it, I'm just not going to push myself into the time.
That makes sense.
I don't even think about how much time I spend researching stuff. You know, it's just like if I have an odd minute, I catch myself Googling a certain photo to see if I can find it. I haven't seen that in a couple of years, or a group of photos or an article or something. And you don't really think about, that's too much time I spent today. You just fit it in between the cracks somewhere. And, you know, I've got files all over the place where I accumulate, you know, bits and pieces. And then eventually you have enough.
You're
Just
like a detective.
or Indiana Jones.
Batman.
Ed, I read that online yesterday, I think.
Yeah, I did too, Ed. I was going to make a comment. You rock, Ed. Very cool.
Pretty cool.
Very cool. Man.
And congratulations on the big win.
Yeah, good job, Ed.
Send me your stuff tonight, and I'll send you this tomorrow. In the mail, Taylor Green won last week, and hers is on the way.
Yours and Dan from New Jersey stuff is on the way as well.
Oh, right. Before we get going, let's start right. Let's start right here. All right. If you guys want a custom guitar built, we know a guy, and here he is.
Here's a guy heavily influenced by Johnny B's guitars. I've got quite a lot of stuff in progress right now. My floor is littered with bodies and things.
Yes. Whoa, that one's wild.
The red and black over your shoulder. The red and black.
It's pink. Actually, it's pink.
Is that pink?
Yeah, it's a
I see it now. Oh, I
Here,
like
I'll
it even more.
Neon
I'm
pink.
just going to show this
yeah.
quickly. We're not going to get into a whole lot of. I know everybody's got to get going, but I'll just showcase this one. So this is something I did for a client who's bought their second and third guitars for me.
Man, look at
The
that
picture-
neck. You had me at the
Whoa.
reverse headstock.
It's a little hard. It's not coming out in the picture. It's a neon pink.
It's coming out
I
pink
know
over
that
here, brother.
exact color. I've used that before.
But it doesn't show up quite as well in that. But we did a heavily relicked
Whoa.
bumblebee body.
I like it.
It's
I
basically a
love that
bumblebee.
deal.
And then what they requested and what we did was it's going to all have black hardware, by the way. But we did a reverse headstock Charvel.
Oh, I love that.
Nice.
I love it.
And it's going to have a black Floyd, black knob, black tuners, and
Beautiful.
yeah.
Nice.
So
Right on.
Absolutely beautiful,
that's
man.
one of many. And join us again next week, and we'll get into some other ones.
Excellent.
Nice.
On.
Hey,
Excellent.
Neil,
That's awesome.
Ryan wants to know if he left his AirPods at your house.
That's good.
Neil's links are down below. Neil's links are always down below. Hit Neil up.
God.
Yeah. All right.
Ryan,
And
I'll look for him tonight.
so you guys want some custom guitar picks made? We know a guy, Greg Legend Picks. His
You got a
links are
guy.
down below. Yeah.
Yep.
He is our guy, and
Yeah.
he's made us these and others, and he can make some for you too. His links are down below. And who else? So those of you that like the cigar box guitar, that's right. The links are down below. We know a guy, Brendan B. Squared, and he makes some buttes.
Custom.
Look at those.
Those are awesome. Those are so cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And his links are down below. Yeah, dude. That's it. That is it. Am I leaving anything out, guys?
I don't think so.
Charles Green. He's got something to
Charles.
say.
Yeah.
Anything to unbox there, Charles?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet, but soon. We got all kinds of stuff in the works, and
Sandra, am I missing anything here?
I don't have anything here yet.
I do want to thank everybody watching for hanging out tonight.
There she is.
Right on.
nice. Nice.
Thank you.
Okay, we're good. We're good.
All right.
For her.
Cool. All right. So,
You know, she is the heart and pulse of the show, you guys. I just want you all to understand that. It's the
He's
absolute
the boss.
Yeah, she's the gold throat of the show.
Until she put her thumb up,
The
there
ball.
she is, right there. Until that thumb came up, we weren't clear. We weren't going anywhere until she said so. So,
As Murr would say, like a balls.
Yeah.
right there.
that's right. You got it.
No, I think we're good.
All right.
Good to go.
So, yeah, dude. So we're gonna. Let me get my bearings here. We're gonna shove off.
Thank you, Johnny B.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Johnny.
One more
dude.
time, everybody. One more time.
Wow, Johnny. Right there,
Johnny
brother.
B.
Johnny
Yeah.
B Guitars,
Yeah, man.
everyone.
Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah, thanks, Johnny.
No problem, man. This is a great time.
Dude, you'll have to come back.
Yeah.
Anytime, dude.
Yeah.
Anytime.
I'd love to, man.
Absolutely.
This was good.
Absolutely.
Changed my life.
Very cool.
We
I
we
can't.
we talk
You're
Van
talking
Halen
about
here
the show, I
every
assume,
week.
right?
Of course he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, so where's it at? Once again, the month of July, all month from now until the 27th, Live Wednesday, will announce the winner for the 56-inch EVH leather guitar strap photo contest. Send your photos of your VH guitars to the Show Me Your Pick Facebook fan page. The links are down below. If you had trouble, somebody said they had trouble getting in a link, that has been corrected. Thanks. So
Very cool.
send your pictures all month. Be creative.
Yeah.
Entertain us. Yeah. And good luck.
Yes. Good luck.
The larger of the two. Yeah. All right. And Ed, congratulations on the big win with
You
the
rock,
David
Ed.
Lee Roth pass. Right on. Let's see. There it is. That's what I'm trying to scroll for. All right. All right. So we're out of here. Johnny B. Guitar, Sandra, Charles Green, John, Neil Daly, Tommy. We'll see you next Wednesday right here. We got a special guest next Wednesday playing. Shh, 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 shh. Can't tell you.
Gold throat.
Johnny, hang out for a minute so we can say goodbye to you off there.
Yeah, you guys hang out. We'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks so much. Leave a thumbs up on the video. Helps the smooth of things. So thank you for that. Subscribe if you're not already. If you like Van Halen, if you love Van Halen like all of us love Van Halen, subscribe every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Halenville Live. A lot of cool stuff coming up. We will see you guys next week. A big... Any last words, Charles?
Hey guys, just don't forget. It doesn't matter if you go north, south, east, or west. Every single road leads straight to Van Halen, guys. Be well. Have a great week. Lenny, it's wonderful seeing you in the chat. Say hello to Mary for me and rock on. Be well, guys. Hey, Tinker Mug, Ollie Lewis. Be well, guys. Take care.
Right on.
That's how you do that.
Nice. Nice.